This bowling ball can get you a strike every time because after you bowl it, you simply lean in the direction you want the ball to turn. This idea has been on my bucket list for over 3 years, so today I'm going to tell you how we made it, how exactly it works, and what happens when you take it bowling, but neglect to tell the people you're bowling with about your slight advantage. So this trick ball looks and feels like a normal bowling ball, and that's because it's made from a real bowling ball. Step 1 on this project was to harness my inner Lincoln and Dan to see what's inside an actual bowling ball. The first thing we discovered is that they aren't symmetric. That means the center of mass isn't at the actual center point of the ball. I won't get into the physics here, but this is one factor that helps the pros curve the ball as much as they do. Next, I had my buddy Mark, who owns a machine shop, hollow out the ball using a lathe. Once that was done, we were left with 2 shells, and now I just needed to fill it with some engineering magic. And to do that, I need to get myself to London with the trusty 4-second travel montage. And the reason I needed to get to London was because this is James Bruton, and this is his house. And what you should know about James, aside from the fact that he's a mechanical, electrical engineer genius, is he used to be a toy designer. And I have so much respect for toy designers because they have to come up with really clever designs, like this guy here, where you can see all of this action powered by a single spring so it can remain inexpensive. And his super clever designs include this robot you can control using this puppet robot, or this real-life Iron Man or Hulkbuster suit, or a bunch of really cool BB-8s. I had a basic idea for the mechanism in the ball, and I knew I wanted the guts to be sort of like a BB-8. So I reached out to him, and in the spirit of full disclosure, it was his expertise that really made this whole thing possible. So if you enjoy seeing awesome stuff like this, you really need to go check out his videos and subscribe to his channel. And so after geeking out in his house for way longer than we should have, we put the ball together and headed to a proper British bowling alley for the first official test. We started at pretty low speeds just to prove we had things basically correct. Then we started getting fancy and eventually worked up to hitting some pins. That is a cool feeling. And the reason I can control the ball by leaning is because I have this little board taped to my back that has an inertial measurement unit on it that can sense the orientation. So if I lean left, it sends that command back to the ball using radio waves. And then the ball has a receiver that gets the signal to turn left. And then this Arduino, which is the brains of the operation, tells the servo motor how much to rotate, which then rotates this heavy pendulum to the left. And that radically alters the center of gravity, and it starts turning that way in response. Just like if you want to turn on a bike, you adjust your center of gravity by leaning into the turn. And if I want to bowl normal, I can just click this limit switch and it will ignore all inputs. But as soon as I click it again, then it will once again steer whichever way I lean. And at first we weren't really getting strikes, but that's because my technique was wrong. Hitting the pins dead straight on will tend to leave the corner pins like this. To get a perfect strike, the ball needs to approach the pin somewhere between 3 and 6 degrees from this point. And that's because at that angle, the ball hits this first pin and the normal force vector takes out all of these pins in a line. And then the ball contacts this next pin here and it takes out all of these pins in a line. And then the ball's momentum takes out the final 3. Professional bowlers get their ball to hit the pins at this side angle by curving the ball. And you kind of have to do that because if you suck at bowling like me and you can only bowl the ball straight, if you extend that straight line out, you would need to bowl from the other lane over. But technically, that's not allowed. And so at that point, your remaining strategies are either bad CGI or mechanical engineering. And we chose the latter. And once I got the angle right, we started locking in the strikes. In addition to testing our ball, we got to see the machine they used to oil the lanes and the crazy fascinating machine that clears and resets the pin after every frame, but that's a topic for another video. And so with everything working perfectly, it was time for the final test to see how it performed in real life. So we arranged to meet some of our family friends at the local bowling alley, and at first I tried bowling normally with the controls turned off, but it turns out, without the aid of mechanical engineering, I suck at bowling. And nobody likes me. So to get my street cred back, I clicked the switch on and explained I actually had Jedi powers. And then I used said Jedi powers to steer the ball, get some strikes, and reclaim my high five privileges. And it didn't take them long to catch on to the secret that rolling strikes was just directly proportional to how much you moved. Because that's when Mr. Beast hit 20 million subs, and someone suggested to celebrate you should plant 20 million trees. It went super viral on Reddit and Twitter, at which point someone else suggested he should team up with me and a bunch of other YouTubers to make it happen, which got me thinking. And so with that, I made my way to Oregon to meet with Mr. Beast and his crew to plant 20 million trees.
$999 more to go. It's 20 million trees in a 48-hour time period.
The statistics may not be in our favor, but we got great.
Worm! Worm!
Abort! Abort!
Save it. These guys are talking a big game. They know what they're doing, but I'm gonna go do an impromptu protest. First of all, I don't love the angle. Can I just say that off the bat? No. Oh, wow! We've been planning all day. Solid 8 hours. We're up to like 250 trees. So, I mean, it's a start. Definitely a start. Can we just say, look who's the dirtiest? I saw your brother. Wow. Just look at the dirtiest. Yeah. Mine's super dirty. My back hills. There's a field of trees. 300, after folding and planting. 300's less than 20 million.
So after talking it over, we decided we would play to our strengths. Jimmy was going to try and solve a problem with a tweet recruiting thousands of people, and I was going to pursue a more robotic solution. And so with that, I made my way further up the coast to Washington using a shortcut I knew to see if I could uncover a way to plant trees from the sky. But before I get into that, have you ever thought about where trees actually get their mass from? The knee-jerk reaction is to think it comes from the soil, but that can't be true, because if you have a tree in a big pot, as the tree gets bigger, the soil level doesn't go down at all. The answer, as it turns out, is that the mass comes from thin air. The clue is if you look at what the bulk of the tree is actually made of. It's almost entirely carbon. Pretend I'm a tree. Basically, a tree sees a carbon dioxide molecule floating by, then it powers up with energy from the sun using photosynthesis, then it uses that energy to get the carbon from the oxygen, and it takes that carbon and slaps it on itself to get more swarm. And then the tree's like, hey humans, here's some beautiful fresh oxygen, you can have that. Hallelujah. So it takes the seed and leaves us with the O2. That's a smooth deal. And so trees start really small, but in order to get bigger and bigger, they're just sucking more and more carbon out of the air. So now you see a tree and appreciate the beauty in the shade, but also that they're just these really massive vacuum bags completely stuffed full of carbon. And so I was in Washington to meet with some people who had a crazy idea that just might be the key to helping Mr. Beast and I plant those 20 million carbon vacuums. What's up? Their company's called DroneSeed, and they're only about 4 years old, and their idea is to use these massive drones to plant trees from the sky. They do this in 2 steps. First, they send out a smaller recon drone that uses lasers to create a 3D map of the terrain, and then from that they use software to find all the best spots to drop the trees to maximize their survivability. And then they create a flight path for each of the drones to fly autonomously. Then you load up the drone with a bunch of these seed pucks that you will drop from the sky. And their design is super clever too, because in each puck, represented by a hockey puck in this case, there's a special cocktail of around 6 seeds specifically chosen for the area where they're planting. And then you have nutrients, sort of like a fertilizer, that will help the seed grow and keep it from drying out. And then because you don't want a bunch of squirrels or mice just making a buffet out of all the seeds you drop, you need some way to condition them to give the whole experience just a 1-star review.
So ghost peppers, they're an olfactory and gustatory deterrent, which means if you eat it, you know, the obvious reaction, and on the way out it's the same thing.
Yeah,
and
gustatory is the euphemism for on the way out. I ate Taco Bell last night and had some gustatory issues as well.
And then once you secure the puck dropper to the drone, it's time to fly.
Light the fires, kick the tires. Dude, that's like a mini house just flying. That is wild. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it's so funny to me.
mimics Mother Nature, right? Because like a bird eats a seed, it flies, it poops it, and there's like nourishment around that seed, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's biomimicry.
And this is brutal terrain. You wouldn't be wanting to walk down in here. So to be able to access this from the sky is a really big deal. After wildfires, we used to rely on Mother Nature to do reforestation for us, but due to some factors related to climate change, 40% of the time now, we're seeing tall shrubs grow back instead of big old trees that can literally suck up tons of carbon. And that's an example where drones are perfect because they can get in right away and start planting trees in the smoldering remains where it's too dangerous for humans to be on the ground. Even with only 3 drones, you could reforest an area 6 times faster than a normal planting crew. If you can nail a fleet like this with just 3, you can just scale this up. You can imagine the potential where, you have a swarm of 100 drones. The work Drone Team is doing is awesome. It gives me so much hope when I see people use really cool technology to solve really big problems. But they're still fine-tuning their system before they massively scale up. So they just aren't going to be able to help us plant the 20 million trees in time. Which is why we've been talking with all our YouTube creator friends for the past 5 months. And we decided if we were actually going to plant 20 million trees by 2020, we would need to bring the entire YouTube community together on this.
So, let's plant some trees.
I'm so excited.
It could be one of the craziest things that YouTube has ever seen. There's so many people. We could end up with too many trees.
We're calling it Team Trees, and we went through a bunch of different options on how to pull this off, and eventually settled on working with the Arbor Day Foundation. They're the longest running, most well-respected tree planting nonprofit, and we made a deal with them that for every $1 we give them, they would plant 1 tree. It's basically magic, and I had to prove that to my buddy Thomas. Here's $1. I'm gonna call my buddy Zach King here. Zach King, ooh la la.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey Zach, we've got $1 for you.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna take the $1, put it in the dirt, and then boom, hit a tree.
Oh, wow.
Pretty slick. And so despite mine and Mr. Beast's best effort, we need your help. Because to plant 20 million trees, we're really looking to raise $20 million. That's just an insane goal, especially when you only have 2 short months to pull it off. But starting today, you're gonna see the entire YouTube community come together on this like you've never seen before.
20 million trees. I am so in.
Proud members of Team Trees filming a music video. With always,
I would plant at least a couple of trees.
The reason I'm most excited about this is it feels like the end of Power Rangers when they would all assemble into the big thing and fight stuff together and do good.
This will absolutely be historic, and we need you on Team Trees. This is our chance to end this decade on a super strong note. It's a constructive way to tell the policymakers that this generation and our community on YouTube truly cares about the environment. It's basically all of us doing together to get a massive fist bump to freaking Mother Earth. I personally will be planting 50,000 trees by donating $50,000. But that's still way less than 20 million, so join me and Mr. Beast and all your favorite YouTube creators by clicking that blue button right over there and planting as many trees as you can afford right now. We honestly need you. If you're a working adult, consider how many trees you're willing to plant to send a message. If you're a kid, talk to your parents about this. Get creative and do some chores to earn some money. Ask for some freaking trees for Christmas. You can pick up 10 little soda cans and then recycle them. And that's literally 1 more tree that will exist in the world than if you wouldn't have done it. This is all hands on deck, so either click that blue button or go to teamtrees.org and turn your dollars into trees. And then for like the next 2 months, make sure you like and double tap and retweet anything having to do with Team Trees and harass your favorite creators to join if they somehow haven't already. And so now, in exchange for joining Team Trees, if you've ever wondered how we really know climate change is occurring, stick with me for 2 minutes. Because I'm going to break it down real simple using this column of ice. A while back, scientists went down to Antarctica and drilled out a bunch of ice cores like this. And what's cool is that because ice layers up over time, the really old ice is at the bottom and the newer ice is on top. Now, as you know, ice traps air bubbles. So as you move your way down the column, you get these little pristine pockets of air going back in time. What they found is that CO2 levels in the atmosphere naturally fluctuate from about 200 to 300. But then starting with the Industrial Revolution, we started burning way more coal, which is made from dead trees. And we started burning down forests for resources to keep pace with the growing population. The problem with both of these is we're taking all this carbon that was in the ground in these massive carbon vacuum bags, and we're putting it back into the air at a super unnatural rate. So much so that around 1950 we busted into the 300s for the first time in at least 1 million years. And we weren't done yet because just 4 years ago in 2015, we broke into the 400s. When I started writing the script for this video, we were at 411. Today we're at 412. And this is the actual current data from NASA's excellent website, which does a great job laying out all the data they've gathered on climate change. A lot of my old friends at NASA played a role in collecting this data. Now here's the punchline and why all of this matters. If you independently look at average temperature over the past million years and then overlay it with average CO2 in the atmosphere, they match up pretty much exactly. So this relatively sudden spike of all the CO2 in the air is not a good thing. And sure enough, right now, we are consistently breaking the hottest month on Earth records, which has a lot of knock-on effects, which will start snowballing unless we can band together and reverse the trend. And it's important to note with regards to Team Trees that 20 million trees by 2020 isn't going to cure climate change, but it's a step in the right direction and a constructive, positive way to send the message that we see the science and we care. So thanks for watching and thanks for doing your part to make a difference. I am so stoked. We totally got this. Largest ever elephant toothpaste foam experiment. In today's video, which is partially sponsored by LastPass, I'm going to walk you through everything we had to go through to get to this point, as well as some really cool side discoveries we made in our hundreds of hours of testing along the way. The main ingredient for elephant's toothpaste is hydrogen peroxide. It's the same stuff you pour on a scrape to disinfect it. The thing is, the bonds that hold the hydrogen and oxygen together are pretty weak, so if we poured some of this in here and just left it for a while, it would keep releasing oxygen and eventually you'd be left with just water. However, if you add a catalyst like potassium iodide, you can make that slow process happen almost instantly. So that's cool, but we can make it way more impressive if we add one key ingredient to the soap. So if we pour this in and then do everything else the same, now when the oxygen is released, the soap captures it, creating bubbles of foam. And then finally, if you all that again, only now you add food coloring and use a flash that tapers like this, you can focus the expansion of foam so it looks maximum awesome. So in order to fill a pool with this stuff, I first got together with some friends and we spent literally hundreds of hours for a few weeks running experiments to calculate the best raw ingredient combinations in addition to brainstorming other cool things we might do with it. And so before we attempted to shatter the current world record, we had an end of summer party with my son and a bunch of family friends where we wanted to share with them the coolest side discoveries from our research. But first, in true end of summer fashion, we had to knock out some slip and slide kickball. I plan to kick things off by attacking them with an elephant toothpaste gun we made, as revenge for when a bunch of these same kids ambushed me on a recent beach trip and then offered me some cookies, which were just 6 massive cockroaches. And I hate cockroaches. However, as part of our testing, we discovered the reaction is highly exothermic, which means it generates heat as a byproduct. If you watch it infrared, you'll see the temperature of the foam right after the reaction can reach almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So because I'm nice, I shelved my revenge plans and just demonstrated what would have been their fate and told them to sit and watch at a safe distance. And they listened. Sort of. And so now that we had their attention, it was showtime. 3, 2, 1, go! This one's called the Melted Unicorn. You might recognize Bob Flugfelder here, aka Science Bob. He's been on Jimmy Kimmel Live 11 more times than I have, and I invited him out to join me for a very specific reason, which I will address in a bit. And And so with the success of the science show behind us, it was now time for phase 2. So we are here standing in an empty swimming pool, about to try and break the world record for elephant's toothpaste. You want to tell the good people who owns the current world record, Bob?
I did.
You want to tell the good people who's about to not own the world record, Bob?
I'm in, aren't you?
No, I'm not. But if everything goes well, we're hoping to quadruple the amount of the current record which you hold. I'm not sure how much of like the trees and neighborhood we're going to cover in the process. Only time will tell. And chemistry, which I don't understand, but we'll see what we can come up with. We wanted the foam to be safe to play in afterwards, so we used ordinary baking yeast as our catalyst. We could have bought yeast in big buckets, but it turned out it was cheaper to get them in 1 pound bags. The only downside to that is then you have to cut open 180 1-pound bags of yeast. But that's why we have Science Bob.
Come on out, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
This is an emergency tarp system. So if we did our math right, it shouldn't overflow. In the case that it does, we have these tarps here to contain all of the foam and not going everywhere in the yard. We hope for the best, plan for the worst. We built these 3 frames for the tarps that would contain the catalyst yeast solution. So when it was time to fill the pool, we could just cut the tarps and it would pour out. The same way we cut the tarp when we added the bigger Orbeez. And Kevin. It's go time, baby. We're probably like 7 minutes out. Got a bunch of kids inside who are just raring to get out. The challenge here is this water's warm. We didn't build these containers big enough, so this will start rising. So it's sort of a race against the clock before it starts overflowing. We still have to add the soap, and then we have to add the food coloring. Oh, this looks terrifying. As I stab this bloody thing, I think I'm about to get demonetized.
Garçon.
This is when we'll actually make the bubbles. Soap isn't part of the reaction. 2 more soap buckets. Whoa! As you can see, that bucket's filling real quick. So after a few final touches, we were ready to go. 3, 2, 1. Now before we cut the tarts, I want to point out I'm not a chemist. With the physics and engineering problem, I'm way more comfortable understanding the parameters and getting closer to the final solution off the bat. But chemistry is just little molecules I can't see, and it feels a lot like trial and error without any guarantee it will actually scale up predictably. This was feeling like the nightmare of the Jello pool all over again. To get to this point, we had ran over 150 tests, sometimes at great peril to that which we hold dear. And so once again, if this was a total failure, it wouldn't be from lack of effort. Having said all that, here she is. 2, 1, go! So the good news is, we broke the record. The bad news is, we're kind of overachievers. It's coming up! The great tsunami! Hey, hold this. Okay, stand back off the tarp. Oh, we need to grab them, stand back. Hold this up, Bob. Okay? Woo! So when we pushed all the foam back into the pool, that gave it some time to cool down so we could actually touch it. see it travel in infrared because it would expose the much hotter lower layers of foam as it flew around. Tests, we perfected the chemistry for this stuff. So if you want to make a home version you can play with, check out Science Bob's website. I'll leave a link in the video description. Alright Bob, sorry you're looking at an obsolete piece of material there. Over here. You did however over here, but all good things must come to an end. That was a lot of fun, and I have good news because you are still the world record holder. I'm putting you on there with me, buddy. On it. I texted this clip to my wife who wanted proof I wasn't doing anything stupid on a recent trip to the Bahamas. Now if you're wondering what my feet are doing in shark-infested waters with a bucket of blood 20 miles away from any land, well that comes down to a conversation I had with my friends at the Discovery Channel 6 months ago. They told me Shark Week is coming up and they want to know what I would do if they could put me in the middle of the ocean on a boat surrounded by sharks. For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to test if sharks can really smell a drop of blood in the water from a mile away. Now before you say Mythbusters already did this, they kind of did this. As you can see, to test this, they poked their fingers and then stuck them in a barrel with these tiny lemon sharks, and since they didn't really seem to turn around and look at their fingers, they said I was busted. Now I'm friends with both Carrie and Adam, but I think even they would admit, at least in this case, the methodology was less than scientifically rigorous. So I came up with a more robust test procedure, built some NASA-grade hardware for the experiment, hopped on a plane, and then a speedboat, and soon enough, I was 20 miles offshore of the Bahamas. What's up?
Hey, Mark.
Dude, there's sharks!
That's sharks.
Out there. That's the first time I've ever seen a shark, like in the wild. Let's do some science. To kick things off, I sat down with my marine biologist, shark diving expert friend, Luke Tipple, and explained my plan to him. And eventually I planned to test just how far they could smell a single drop of blood in the water. But first, I wanted proof that they actually preferred blood over any other scent. So for my first experiment, I planned to put 4 surfboards in the water equidistant from the back of the boat. Each board would host 2 liters of a different liquid that we would pump into the ocean over the course of an hour. Then using a 3-meter radius around each board as a gauge, we would use drone footage and count how many sharks went over to check out each board. So this board would be fish oil, which I heard was a general attractant for lots of fish. Then we would have cow's blood here, then seawater here as a control to make sure the sharks weren't just interested in the surfboard, and then finally urine. I've heard from surfers that a lot of them won't pee in their wetsuits because they feel like it's going to attract a shark.
I don't know a surfer alive who doesn't pee in their wetsuit. But yes, it's definitely something that I've heard a lot.
It's gonna liberate surfers everywhere if we show that it's cool to pee in your wetsuit. And so after a bit more discussion, Luke was on board for the first of our 2 experiments. Well, as a firm believer in the scientific method, we'll test it out.
And then you die.
Well, depending on the results, I die. I can't pee, the deal's off. And so with that, we started putting the 4 boards together. We also started collecting scientific donations from the crew. Alright, so now it's time to fill these bags. What do you want to do first, pee or blood?
Yeah, let's do pee.
Okay.
Do rock, paper, scissors, but who holds the bucket and who holds the bag? Right?
Alright, I gotta strategize. Okay, I know. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. Oh, that smells so bad. It's urine. Whoever it is, they need to hydrate, dude. This is good.
Oh, it's warm. Oh, dude. The boring sucks. Oh.
Okay. Oh, that's we're good. All in the name of science.
It's a great time of day to be doing this because we have a lot of sharks. Looking down here, we got 3 or 4 lemons on the surface, and I can actually see 2 tigers down the bottom, and that's actually a massive tiger down there.
Huge. Alright, see if you can do a better job playing than I did. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. There's a feeding frenzy. It's fine. What are you doing? I almost lost my hand.
I'm gonna jump out of the water.
Okay, so we've got seawater as our control, fish oil.
Have urine and cow's blood.
So while Luke is bravely swimming the 4 surfboards out and anchoring them in place in preparation for the 1-hour countdown, now is a perfect time to explain the cool tech on each board I designed and built from scratch with my buddy Sean Hodgins. For this experiment to be robust, all 4 boards need to start pumping at the exact same time after Luke has them in place. That means we need to somehow start the pumps using a radio signal from the boat. So each surfboard has a waterproof receiver box like this that also hosts the battery, a custom printed circuit board, and 2 Arduinos. Then I have the remote control, and as soon as I hit this button, they all start pumping at the same time. We know each pump is working because the corresponding yellow light is lit up. That's important because they're too far away from the boat to see if they're functioning properly. To pump the blood and pee, we're using a peristaltic pump. This is a perfect choice because it's a totally sterile way to get the blood from the bag to the ocean, since the blood never touches any sort of valve or something. It just has these rollers that sort of pinch and push the blood through the tubing in a manner that just happens to be similar to a severed artery. And so with the boards in place, it was go time.
Operation Shark Bait Testing commence! 3, 2, 1! All 4 are going. We have confirmation. Everything is rolling. The experiment is underway. We'll let them go for an hour, just dripping stuff out. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
After 10 minutes, I was really surprised there wasn't a lot of action on any of the boards.
So far it's pretty interesting. I mean, you're showing that you have a massive cut and you're bleeding out, and there's this many sharks within like 50 yards of you that they're kind of like, meh. So like already that's an interesting finding, right? You drink a little bit of blood and there could be a massive swarm, but that's not the case so far.
And to be clear, we weren't dealing with small quantities here. The human body contains 5 liters of blood, and after you lose 2 liters, which is the exact amount we're putting in the water, then you die. About 20 minutes in, things were still pretty quiet, especially at the fish oil, urine, and control boards. But then the blood board started attracting some smaller fish, and soon after, 1 or 2 sharks started taking notice.
Not a lot of love for my pee. I don't know why I find that kind of offensive, but I'm just a little hurt.
Eventually, with about 15 minutes left, things started getting pretty wild over by the blood board. The blood was spread out and made almost like a blood runway. So you have this surreal line of sharks swimming up this enticing blood trail one after another, only to be super disappointed to find a big piece of styrofoam.
We're almost done. 3, 2, 1. The motors have stopped. Our experiment is done. I'd just like to point out the bags have been sucked dry, so the engineering part of this experiment was flawless.
Dude, there were sharks everywhere. Yeah. No, super pissed off scientists.
And so now it's time to go in and review the footage and get a final tally for each board. And what we found was that 4 sharks went to check out the fish oil, then 0 sharks went to check out both the control and the urine. And then the blood board had a direct visit from a whopping 41 sharks. And so now that we debunked some surfing myths about urine and proved that sharks certainly had a strong preference for blood over anything we tested, the real question was just how much blood is interesting to them. And there was one part of the experimental design that was really nagging at me.
That was cow's blood, right?
That was cow's blood. You know that
I want to try human blood.
Got at least 10 living, breathing blood bags around here.
It's worth noting, not everyone was as stoked as Luke and I about this idea.
Yeah, and then just draw, we'll just have fresh blood, just made like
risked his life by placing the 3 boards, I prepared to push a button. 3, 2, 1, commence! All right, all of them are pumping and good to go. Now the clock's just ticking. We have like 55 more minutes to go. We'll see if the sharks notice it. 1 drop of human blood every 4 seconds may sound like a lot, and it certainly is. But it's also important to note that's 40 times less than the first experiment where we saw so much activity. In this case, halfway into experiment number 2, even though there were tons of sharks still in the area, the boards themselves were pretty quiet. We'll have to see when we look at the footage afterwards, but so far it looks like the answer's no. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Experiment's over. And so after the full hour, we brought in the boards and once again reviewed the footage to see that over the course of an hour, 0 sharks checked out the control board, 0 checked out the slow blood pumping board, and exactly 0 sharks checked out the fast one. So this was by no means a perfect experiment, but I think it's safe to qualitatively say that if no sharks came to check out 15 drops of human blood a minute in the middle of shark-infested waters, you're probably going to be okay with a small scrape. I mean, there certainly won't be some kind of feeding frenzy with a single drop of blood from all sharks within a mile. Now that I had some first-hand data to put my mind at ease, I was willing to try diving with the sharks without a cage, but I had one final experiment. I had a theory that if we secured a 360 camera to the front of a hand spear and then shot it near some sharks, we could create the world's first really cool Matrix-like underwater bullet time effect. So I suited up and got in. And my theory proved correct on the bullet time hand spear. Because as you can see, that footage turned out really cool. That was amazing, man. We got him in like a feeding frenzy at the end. There's like 6 of them all around us. And I lived. I mean, this is shaping up to be a great day.
What I'll take home from this shoot is just more evidence of the amazing animals that sharks are, but also the ability to point people in a specific direction to say, hey, your thoughts about them are a little overblown.
This experience definitely changed my perception on sharks. I would say I respect them more after seeing their raw power up close, but at the same time there's less of that fear that comes from ignorance. On top of all that, I didn't die. No steal. There's no steal there. I predict not a steal. Watch this. And he stayed. He's gonna steal. This is a steal. If this app works, this kid's about to steal. There he goes! There he goes! It freaking works. 2 years ago, I came up with an idea for an app where you could decode baseball signs so you would know when the other team was going to steal, even after just the first inning. Then, in a covert effort to get people more interested in coding and machine learning, I would make the app free and available to everyone. And I'm happy to report, it's no longer just an idea. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how the app works and we'll use it in the wild, and then we're going to talk about machine learning in very simple terms with my buddy Jabril. But first, to set the stage, we need to understand the fascinating world of secret baseball signs. It's the game within the game. Most people know the catcher will give signs to the pitcher when your team is on defense, but when you're on offense, the third base coach gives signs to both the batter and the base runner. For example, he can secretly tell the batter to bunt, or to not swing at the next pitch, or you can tell the base runner to steal. And just to be clear, stealing a base is when you start running as soon as the pitch is thrown, instead of waiting for the batter to try and hit it. It's risky because if the batter doesn't hit the ball and the catcher's good, he can throw you out at second base. Because it's a big advantage, coaches will actually tell their players to watch and see if they can figure out the other team's signs. That's considered fair play and it's part of the game. The problem is, our brains aren't great at figuring out the complex patterns. So we set out to create an app that would use machine learning to do exactly that. And by we, I mean Jabril actually sat down and wrote the code, and I just made sure he had unlimited Cheez-Its and LaCroix. Here's how it works. If I saw Coach touched his nose, ears, arm, chin, and so on, I would assign those to letters in the app. Then I would just watch him sign and record the order. After that, I would just let the app know the outcome, so was it a steal or not. After you do this for enough sequences, the app will start to make predictions. In this case, it's predicting the combination of AD, or nose then chin, is their steal sign. This worked well enough on my workbench, so now it's time for the first real-world test in a kids versus adults wiffle ball game. And my friend Sarah takes the game of wiffle ball pretty seriously, so she was the captain of the kids team and was signaling for them to steal at just the right moments. And I wasn't sure on the ethics of using our app against a bunch of little kids, but they were scoring runs and stealing bases with impunity, and then they got so confident, they started talking trash. And no one says that about my pitcher, so at that point, the gloves came off. We found it easiest to film her signs with our phone, and then scrub through and capture the order in the app afterwards, as opposed to trying to do it real time. And I'm very happy to report we cracked their code after only 3 sequences. And what's cool is once you know the code, you no longer need the app because you can just watch for the steal signal, and when we saw it, we alerted our pitcher with the secret sign of our own. The tides of the game shifted, and we were able to officially prove adults rule and kids drool. So our app cracked the code after just 3 sequences, and I'm going to show you them to see if you can figure out the steal sign using just your brain. Here's the first one, and this was a steal. Here's the second, and this was no steal. And this is the third, and it was a steal. Pause and go back if you want to try and figure it out, because I'm about to tell you the answer. According to the app, which Sarah later confirmed, their steal sign was only if she touched her hat and then left ear back to back. Everything else was just a default. Now before I tell you exactly how the app can figure this out so quickly, we need a little background information. So I've cornered my buddy Jabril here, and I'm going to make him give us a super simple explanation of machine learning. Now here's what you should know about Jabril. He's basically a genius who taught himself how to code when he was 14. He has an amazing YouTube channel you should check out with videos like this one, where he made a video game where the character teaches himself how to navigate any maze using machine learning and neural networks. Alright, let's say we have Timmy here, and Timmy likes certain type of toys, but not others. So in our fake example here, he decides it's based on how big the toy is and how complicated it is. So, from small to big, and then over here, how many parts it has from just one piece to a really complex toy with gears and moving parts and things like that. And so, if we ask Timmy about 20 different toys and start to plot those on the graph, we'll start to see a pattern. So generally, he likes toys that are big and complicated, but does not like toys that are small and simple. And so, by looking at his past preferences, we can make really good predictions for the future. If you show little Timmy here a toy that is this complicated and this big, we're confident that he'll like it before you show it to him because it is inside the like boundary. That's the big deal with machine learning. We don't have to take the time and show little Timmy here every toy that's ever been created and record his answers. After we record some likes and dislikes, we're able to draw some boundaries. And precisely where we draw these boundaries is the secret sauce.
In this case, with just 2 inputs, you can just eyeball it and see where to put the boundaries. But when you have thousands of inputs that interact with each other, it's impossible for our brains to comprehend where those boundaries should go. However, it's pretty trivial for a computer using machine learning.
In doing research for this video, I talked to probably over 50 baseball players and coaches. And when we asked about signs, it was surprising to me how they all basically use the same strategy. See if you could pick up on it.
Every coach has an indicator. I have an indicator so I can do all this, random stuff like this, touch anywhere. Until I touch this, none of that matters.
So it'd be indicator, and the next sign, that's a hot sign. So it's indicator, arm, still. If I just do the arm, that's nothing.
Oftentimes I'll give this, Simon didn't say. If I go indicator, and then immediately to anywhere on my arm, still. Bunt is to the bell, indicator the bell.
So basically nothing matters and it's all a decoy until they touch the indicator. And then the very next sign is the instruction. So after the indicator, you might be told to bunt, or to take a pitch, or to steal. And so since the steal sign comes immediately after the indicator, we just look at a sequence where a steal was recorded. Here that's showing as 1. Then we look through that sequence 2 letters at a time and store those combos. Then we do the same thing for all the sequences where a steal was recorded, and whatever 2-letter combo shows up in all of them is their indicator and steal sign. In this case, it's AD. So if we decode that, that means nose is their indicator and chin is their steal sign. Now I have a confession. What I just showed you doesn't use machine learning at all. It's just a simple algorithm we realized would work once we discovered that pretty much all teams will use an indicator directly before giving the real sign. But based off all the people we talked to, if you're trying to decode signs, this simple version should work like 90% of the time. But what about the other 10% where they do anything other than indicator followed by sign? That's where you need machine learning, because if done properly, machine learning can crack any code as long as you give it enough training data. So to really see how good Jabril's machine learning app was, I generated some training data based off an insanely complicated steal sign I came up with to see if he could figure it out. So my secret sign was a mustache rub as the indicator followed by any random sign, and then a tooth tap as the steal sign. Then I can have up to 50 different signals in each sequence, and then to throw them off even more, if I ever touch my right eyebrow, it's not a steal. So you ignore everything in the sequence, even if I've already given the steal sign. Now just to set the stage, if we weren't going to use machine learning, this would take a normal computer thousands of years to solve. Because it's the same as if you're asking Timmy about every toy ever made, instead of just drawing the boundaries. Before we see if Jabril can successfully crack my code and how long it will take him, let's just go one layer deeper than the Timmy toy example and see how machine learning mimics the human brain in creating neural networks that can draw those boundaries in the more complicated case of more than 2 inputs. There are 3 main parts to a neural network, and hang with me here because I'm going to keep this simple. You have the input layer, which in our case are the signs being given, and then way over here you have the output layer, in our case steal or no steal, and then in the middle we have the hidden layers, and right now that's just a black box. So if the sign was hat, hat, nose, hand, we would tweak these input knobs like this. Depending on how each of these knobs is turned, each one is interconnected with the knobs to its left. So it causes some simple math to occur at each node, and when you sum up all of those numbers, you're left with the number between 0 and 1. And if that number is really close to 0, that's no steal, and if the number is really close to 1, that's a steal. So you give it a bunch of training data where given an input, you know what the output should be. And you start with these hidden layer knobs turned in totally random directions, and when you add them all up, you get something like 0.55. Well, that doesn't make sense. You can't have half a steal, and more importantly, with the training data, you know the answers, and you know that this combination should have been a steal. So you just start tweaking these hidden layer knobs until you start to get outputs that are more correct over time. And after going through a bunch of examples where you know what the answer should be, eventually you get to a point where any more tweaking of the knobs just makes it less accurate, so you stop. So now you super glue these 3 hidden layer knobs into place because you've trained your model. And so now with a brand new input where you don't know the answer, it gives you the correct output. In this case, a steal. Of course, this is a simple model, but this scales up. So you could have thousands of inputs and thousands of outputs, and you're able to discover really complicated relationships. What's so cool about this is basically how neural networks in our own brains are set up to learn. Once I've been given enough training data to understand the interaction between my hand and arm and keeping something balanced like this, then my model is trained and I super glue those middle knobs in my brain. Then I can introduce a totally new input I've never tried before. before, and I still know what to do. I don't need to be trained on every possible different type of object because my brain has drawn the boundaries. Think about that. For a long time before machine learning and neural networks, computers were just following hard-coded instructions given by humans. Now, they can learn like humans, only they can do it much faster and more comprehensively than we can. Obligatory. And that's why when I get to drill the challenge that would take a normal computer using brute force methods thousands of years to solve.
Yo, man, that's fast. Please tell me that your indicator is a mustache roll. And you have whatever. And then a toothpaste. Is that it? That's it.
Jabril's machine learning algorithm just created the right boundaries and solved it in less than 3 minutes. The machine learning model requires more data than our simple version, which can solve it after like 3 sequences. But the upside is that it will eventually decode any set of signs as long as you're capturing your inputs right. And so now it was time for a real-life test. So I asked my buddy Destin to do some secretive recon work.
Okay, dude, this is the field I used to play at growing up. Today my son is playing on the Rascals. I'm gonna go film third base coaches doing their thing, and we'll plug all that data into the machine learning algorithm. Kids are yelling at me, wanting me to know what my channel is.
And the fact they didn't recognize him just proved to me that whatever was happening in this region was a totally effective disguise. And thanks to Destin's great interviews and raw footage, we were able to get even more data to show that our methods totally worked. And while Destin just brazenly set up a tripod and filmed all these third base coaches,
Yeah, because signs are pretty secret, right? Yeah. Yes, sir. Got it.
I got in trouble for stealing signs.
I was a little more nervous and discreet. If you put a GoPro in a cup, you can actually just watch the footage and frame the shot real time, and it just looks like you're checking dank memes with a drink in your hand. I've actually used this trick a few times, especially on my Carnival Scam Science video. So just like with Destin's footage, it worked perfectly at the games I went to, and it was just a cool feeling once you'd cracked their code to be able to predict exactly what was coming next. There he goes. There he goes. I knew he was gonna steal. I hope you enjoy this excuse to learn more about machine learning as much as I did. I will put links to both versions of the app in the video description for you to check out. And of course, if there are specific rules against using technology to steal signs in your league, I am not telling you to break them. Otherwise, from personal experience, you might risk getting some very important people mad at you. This is the world's first ever actual pool of Jello. And while it may look simple, it's actually a very difficult engineering challenge to pull off. As proof, if you Google Jello pool, you will either find bad CGI or a handful of videos of people who tried to do this, but it really didn't work out. So today, we're going to answer possibly the longest running question from my childhood: what would it be like to actually belly flop in a pool of Jello? But before that, I want to talk about what we actually had to go through for the past 6 months to pull this off. The idea of a Jello pool has been on my bucket list for over 4 years. In fact, when Kevin from the Backyard Scientist and I made the 25 million organs pool, our first idea was to do a pool of Jello. But it's really hard, because if you've ever made Jello, you might recall you first have to boil water, then mix in the powder, and then you have to refrigerate it for it to actually get firm. And that's easy enough to do for a small dish, but how do you boil and then refrigerate an entire pool? This seemed like a very worthy engineering challenge. So last year at Thanksgiving, my brother and I came up with a plan, and then in the middle of winter, we started digging a hole in his backyard. Then over the course of 2 months, we set up a bunch of small-scale experiments because we needed to answer questions like how much gelatin powder does it actually take to get to the ideal firmness, and how hot and then cold does the mixture actually need to get for the Jello chemical reaction to take place so it will actually get firm. And from our experiments, we learned the Jello always got firm as long as the mixture got hotter than 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So we decided we could scale this up by using 6 55-gallon drums with a custom propane burner underneath and a spigot we welded to the sides, but more on that later. So now we knew how we were going to heat it up, but how do you refrigerate an entire pool? For that, we teamed up with Mother Nature and just picked the perfect location and time of year. We installed a thermometer, and starting in January, we tracked the temperature in his backyard every night. We needed refrigerator refrigerator temperatures at night, but not freezer temperatures, because that would freeze the Jello, and our experiments showed that totally ruins it. And so after looking at our data plus historical temperature plots, we knew we had about a 3-week sweet spot window towards the end of April to pull this off. Our goal was to have a Jello pool party in his backyard that would make even Phineas and Ferb jealous. So the plan was to start 7 days before the party and fill the pool with an average of 10 barrels every day. That would give each layer a chance to get exposed to the cold night air to more efficiently get rid of the heat. And so with that, first thing Saturday, a full week before the party, we got to work. We didn't want to waste actual food, so this is just water and gelatin powder and food coloring, but there's no sugar. We intentionally placed our barrels much higher than the pool, so when we were ready, we could use the potential energy to move the Jello from the barrels to the pool. We had to tackle about 1,000 other issues that came up that I won't bore you with, but day by day and layer by layer, the pool began to fill up. Because the Jello went in with so much heat energy we needed to remove before it could get firm, in addition to using the cold night air, my brother's neighbor Nick happened to have a spare swamp cooler in his shop, so we kept that running over the top of the pool pretty much the whole week. This gave us convection cooling. It's the equivalent of rolling down a car window for the pool, or like when you blow on the top of a hot cup of soup. This constantly replaces the boundary layer of air right at the surface with fresh cold air that will suck out the heat more efficiently. And so as we put in the final batch Friday night, with ominous weather threatening to ruin the whole effort, at this point we had done all we could. We were exhausted after a week, and I wasn't feeling super confident because my specialty is more with mechanical things, and this project was more about chemistry and thermodynamics. And I didn't want that lame jelly bob stuff people try and pass off as Jello. And so even if it didn't last long in the sun, I wanted to at least have the experience of seeing even a single belly flop on a smooth pool of actual Jello. If this was going to be a total failure, it wouldn't be from lack of effort. And so we woke up Saturday morning with a forecast for a warm, sunny day, and we pulled off the tarp to find a pool filled with actual freaking Jello. By this point, word in the neighborhood had definitely spread around as to what we were up to, and my brother asked if some of their friends' kids could have first dibs. And so with that, I'm happy to report this is what it looks like to belly flop in a pool of Jello. When I first got it myself, it was closer to the middle of the day, and one of the things we discovered was that direct sunlight over time had the effect of undoing some of the solidness of the lower layers.
When you go in, it just fills your nose and like ears. It's a very surreal feeling of just being like, it's kind of hard to move, but it's just slimy and slippery. It actually feels really cool. We have some pool toys hidden underneath. Got it! Wow. Unlike anything, it's like swimming in snot, if that makes any sense. But like a good snot.
To keep it solid for even longer, if we were to do it again, we might put in a heat exchanger pipe system beneath the surface, sort of like how they freeze indoor ice skating rinks. And maybe use a little sugar.
That's disgusting.
Now at this point you might be thinking, why would anyone spend the effort of 6 months of planning and then a solid week of back-breaking effort just to make a stupid pool of Jello? And to that I say, why do people go through the effort of climbing Mount Everest? Why did Neil Armstrong go through the effort of stepping on the moon? And why did Pam and Jim go through the effort of convincing Dwight that Jim had always been Asian?
This is Jim.
Sometimes you don't do a thing because you should, but simply to prove that you can. Now that my curiosity was fully satiated, and in my ongoing quest to be the favorite uncle, I told my nephews they could invite some of their friends over, and my brother's family set up a neighborhood barbecue. And at this point, after a lot of hours of belly flops and bowling balls in direct sunlight, the Jello was pretty broken down, but that didn't stop us from setting up a Jello pool slip and slide. But it was a bit of an uncle fail moment because apparently none of them have ever used a slip and slide. Is a rocket-powered golf club. Professional golfers have an average swing speed of 110 miles per hour, but using 2 F-size motors, she swings at 150 miles per hour every time. Usually for builds on my channel, I just show you guys the final thing and don't really talk about the process of how we got there. And rest assured, today we will get to see huge drives, whoa! Golf balls shattering glass in super slow-mo, pulverized watermelons, and even a handheld version. But this build, I think, is a great chance to pull back the curtain and demonstrate how the engineering design process actually works. I want to highlight 6 learning opportunities that led us to this final design. And to do that, we need to go back in time 4 months to when I first had the idea. And as always, we started with a simple prototype to see if the concept even had a remote chance of working. But before we fire it up, you'll notice we have counterweights on the opposite side here. That's so that the center of mass of the spinning part is on top of the axis of rotation. In other words, it balances perfectly at the point at which it spins around. If you don't do that for something that spins, it creates a bunch of extra force for your system to deal with. It starts as a small vibration, but then it gets worse and worse as you pick up speed. Since we need to hit this tiny ball with the head of this club at really high speeds, if we're not perfectly balanced, the club and the whole platform itself would just be shaking all over the place, and we'd never hit it. Okay, back to the test. Those stands are shaking more than they should, so we knew we would need to balance the spinning part better for the real test, but at least we knew it could go kind of fast and nothing blows up. And so then it was time for CAD, which is always the next step. And then together with my friends Ken and Kayla, we started cutting metal and making stuff. Things came together well, so we epoxied a 3D printed motor mount to the top of the driver and prepped our first real test by taking one of those easy ups and draping some nets on the side for safety, just in case something went catastrophically wrong. This was our second learning experience. We didn't have enough contact area for epoxying the head to the driver, so it wasn't a strong enough bond. This was tricky because it meant we had to 3D scan the club head, which allowed us to CAD up and then 3D print a more contoured mount with more contact area for the epoxy. We also took this chance to double the rocket holsters because what could possibly go wrong? So we went to test our new dual rocket setup with 2 E-motors and everything went perfectly. Except for the part where the head snapped off the driver. And when we reviewed the slow-mo footage, what we realized was the shaft of the driver is so flexible that it would start to bend and then create really weird thrust vectors for the rockets, which then just bent the shaft even more. This is not what you want to see. Eventually this exceeded the stress limit of the shaft and the head just came off. So our third learning opportunity was to stiffen up the club shaft. So we got some aluminum C-channel and just dumped a butt ton of epoxy in there, and this worked remarkably well. You can see the difference here. And so with that, we headed out to a very remote shooting location in beautiful Northern California. So we finally arrived and started to set up, but first, I had something I wanted to get off my chest. So one of the things I like most about me is that I like to reach out to lesser known channels and sort of give them a handout and some exposure on my channel, which is why today I'm here with Destin, He's Smarter Every Day. And if by some miracle you don't know, Destin is on the Mount Rushmore of science YouTubers. We've been friends for almost exactly 6 years, and I know this because I took a screenshot of the huge moment for me when he subscribed to my channel when I only had 10,000 subs. He's made videos about the physics of cats landing on their feet, tattoos in super slow-mo, or the first video I saw of him about how chickens have an internal open feedback loop which allows them to head track. If you've never seen his stuff, I'm actually jealous because you have so many hours of high-quality viewing in your near future. So, I like golf. I like rockets. Should we do this? Yeah, it's just, that was the intro, right? That was it, whatever. So we all continued to set up, and something that was important to me was for this to look as natural as possible at a driving range. So we added some turf to cover the base plate, and then dissected a golf bag to cover the sturdy steel column. And then if you add some clubs, it looks pretty awesome. It's incredibly rigid, and yet it can still swing freely. Our fourth learning experience came from reviewing our final test footage. If you listen, the club goes faster and faster with each rotation. Naturally, we want the club to contact the ball when it's going the fastest, which in our case is 10 rotations in 1 second. That means we somehow need to sneak the ball into the path of the driver in less than 1/10 of a second, or 1/4 of an eye. To accomplish this, we have a pneumatic cylinder here that hinges up the tee. It knows when to fire because on the back of the shaft there's a light sensor, and this disc has a slit which allows the light to pass through once per rotation. So we send that info to an Arduino over here that counts for us, and then after 15 rotations, it tells the cylinder the precise moment to fire using a solenoid. And then we superglue the ball to the tee because it provides the Goldilocks amount of force to first secure and then release the ball. Plus, the super glue looks super dope and slow-mo. So now with everything in place, we started with 2 E-motors, which as a reminder is the same setup that ripped the club head off. 3, 2, 1, go!
This is respectable. This is legit.
After reviewing more of the high-speed footage, we noticed something interesting.
The sound effect there is like doing.
This was an interesting technical observation from Destin, and that T flexibility was causing us to hit some bad shots like this. The obvious fix is just to make the T more rigid so that it doesn't over-rotate when it pops up. But there's a problem with this. There's a saying that force follows stiffness, and for us, a really stiff T would transfer a bunch of force and destroy our nice 3D printed pop-up mechanism. Now imagine this crumpled up piece of paper as the T, which is obviously way less stiff. Our flexible rubber T was great because it acted like this piece of paper. No matter how hard you hit it, the force doesn't get translated down and damage our hardware. So Ken had the brilliant idea of just tying a string to the T and staking it into the ground. This stopped the over-rotation, but everything was still just as flexible.
When the string pulls tight, does it make the ball fly off because it doesn't go enough?
It's tough as a gold
I just thought this was a really simple, clever idea that solved both problems at once, and as you can see, it worked perfectly. Now we're ready to try a dual F motor. So these deliver about twice as much force to the club as the E motors that made the head snap off. And this provided our final and certainly most poignant learning opportunity.
Go!
Where's the song?
There we go. This thing was like suborbital, dude. So we have 3 U-bolts and we only use 2.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just max out those and just crank them way down now that we know this is a failure point.
Now that we know this is a failure point, there's several failure points, and I hear you say, "Oh, we have a solution for that."
This is the engineering design process.
It's rather fun.
Like I mentioned, the club that failed was cut too short and therefore only attached using 2 U-bolts, which we thought would have been enough to support the 800-pound load from centrifugal force. We did notice the rubber handle was worn due to so many test fires, which probably initiated the stress concentration leading to the failure. So our fix was to cut the next club longer so we could use 3 U-bolts and really crank them down on a fresh rubber handle. And so with all 6 of our learnings now in place, we tried the insane double F motors one more time.
Go! That's our best one yet, dude. Like the rush you get from like an engineering achievement actually working is like, seriously, dude. Oh, look at the blades. Oh, yeah.
So we never found these long balls to measure the exact distance, but I can drive a ball 280 yards, and these were well beyond that. I mean, just look at this trajectory straight to outer space. Now that we got all the shots we needed, it was time to have some real fun. We started with a handheld version that was powered by a single C motor, because anything more than that would just be way too unsafe for me to hold.
Nice!
kidding. Yeah. Like it really made a difference. 3, 2, and then some glass, just because. And then keeping with the tradition of my channel, some watermelon.
Cutting open a watermelon with a rocket powered golf club, Mark.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's all of this. The past 3 months of work in engineering was just to
Boils down to this moment.
Just to enjoy this watermelon.
Yeah, Mark's like trying to make stuff look good. We're not waiting for food though.
We waste no part of the engineering effort, like the great Indians with the buffalo. So Dustin made a video on his channel about why some balls bounce high and others don't. And my first thought was, well, that's easy. It just has to do with how compressible or rubbery it is. Yet this billiard ball is pretty much completely solid, and this bouncy ball is pretty rubbery. And yet they bounce to pretty much the same height. So it's something else. As you can imagine, this is a pretty important piece of information for golf ball makers. So he has lots of amazing slow-mo footage of golf balls being squished in ways that hurt your brain, plus way more footage from today's shoot, so I will leave a link in the video description. And while you're there, make sure to check out some of his other videos and subscribe to his channel, because he's just a classy individual and a true professional in every sense of the word.
Are you rolling?
Yeah.
Hey, it's me, Mark.
To super muddy water like this, and then you stir it up, and 5 minutes later, the mud has separated from the pure, clean, drinkable water. And as a man of science, I see this, and it feels like nothing short of magic. I only make 12 videos a year, so I am really picky about what topics I will cover. And even though I usually just focus on using science and engineering to make totally ridiculous things, at least once a year, I try to make the case that these same science and engineering principles are also being used to actually change the world for the better. For example, last year I met with Manu Prakash from Stanford, who was disappointed to realize the typical microscope and centrifuge to diagnose malaria costs tens of thousands of dollars and needs to be plugged in. So he invented a paper microscope and a paper centrifuge that costs 68 cents, that can diagnose malaria and require no electricity. So today we're going to find out how this was invented, how the heck it works, and how it's being used to help people all around the world. But first, to demonstrate this isn't some kind of smoke and mirrors trick, I located the nastiest water I could find near my house and met up with some intrepid field scientists. Today I'm joined by my friends Cole, Kaden, Rainey, and Max. I promised them they could be in a video, but I didn't tell them which one or what we'd be doing. And here's the deal, guys. We need to go into that pond that's all gross and nasty and fill it up with muddy water. Can you do that? Drink this? What do you guys give me if I take a sip of this? 20 bucks? Okay. We're not going to do anything to this one, but I'm going to do something to this one so then we can compare the two, okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of this powder, I'm going to put it in here. You guys see this? And then we're going to take turns shaking it for like 5 minutes, okay? Let's see what happens. my 20 bucks, Rainy. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you have essentially an endless supply of clean water at the pull of a lever. And because this is so easy, we tend to forget just how critical water is for us. You can live 3 weeks without food, but only a few days without water. And it's not just us. From plants to ants to bacteria, anything that is biological and living needs water to survive. It sounds crazy, but there are no exceptions to this rule. Because of this, when NASA is looking for evidence of life outside our planet, we first start by looking for evidence of water. Given all that, it's a total bummer that nearly 1 billion people around the world don't have access to clean water. Today, drinking contaminated water causes more deaths than HIV, AIDS, and malaria combined. And so that's why the powder in this packet is a really big deal. It was invented by a guy named Philip Suter. He's a laundry scientist at Procter & Gamble. He was originally trying to figure out a way to separate dirt from used laundry water. And I want to be clear here, they are not sponsoring this video in any way. I just think what they're doing is really awesome and they deserve some credit. So I was actually able to track Philip down and he told me all about how it works.
So essentially there's 3 processes. There's coagulation, then the next stage is flocculation, and then the last piece is the disinfection.
You start with clean water like this, but now it's all brown because it's filled with lots of dirt particles, parasites, and bacteria. So you dump the powder in the water, and as Phil explained, the primary part of the powder goes to it first. It's basically seed crystals that are positively charged. And because the dirt in the water is negatively charged, these seed crystals act like dirt magnets. These dirt magnets grow until they're each about 1 millimeter in size. The next part of the powder to activate is the flocculant, which is a polymer which you can think about as having huge long arms that wrap up all the little dirt magnet clumps, and now they form bigger chunks as large as 1 centimeter. And these chunks now are so big, they're just slightly more dense than the water, which means they sink to the bottom. And finally, the chlorine is released, and it goes to work on killing the 99.9999% of all the really tiny viruses and bacteria that are left in the water that didn't get wrapped up and sink to the bottom. So now you're just left with safe drinking water at the top. And this isn't just some PR stunt for P&G. Since 2004, millions of people in over 90 countries have used these packets, and they've saved untold thousands upon thousands of lives. In fact, they've cleaned enough water to fill a swimming pool that is the typical 5 feet deep by 15 feet across. Only the length would need to stretch all the way across the United States over 13 times. These packets cost them pennies to make, which they sell at a loss, and that feels like the right thing to do. But it brings up the question, is there a case to be made beyond altruism, where it's in the best interest of the rich countries to help out the poor countries? And to answer this question, I wanted to speak with someone in the technology sector who had some experience in this kind of thing. And he's a bit of an obscure up-and-comer named Bill Gates. But first, I had to do a little bit of research in order to get myself up to Seattle. They told me I was free to make myself at home while I waited for him to show up, so I did what any rational person would do given the circumstances. I made the richest man on planet Earth some pizza rolls.
Hi.
Phil, good to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
They gave me free reign of your kitchen, and as a token of hospitality, I whipped up a batch of pizza rolls.
Oh, wow. I'll try it. It's not what I normally eat. Pretty hot, actually.
They're kind of like lava in the middle.
Not bad.
It's okay, right?
All
a little bit of cardboard.
What do you got here?
This is plan B, because I wasn't expecting you to actually eat one of those.
Okay.
Dick's Burgers.
Love Dick's.
I know you love...
It's a Seattle phenomenon.
Truth be told, I actually knew this after seeing a picture of him on Reddit. He's standing in line by himself to buy one of their hamburgers for less than $2. Hate to disappoint you. There's no Dick's Burgers in here.
Okay.
We have some liquid refreshment.
That's pretty dark looking.
So I took out the powder and explained to him how it worked, and then I set up the bottles, and here's where we stood after a minute or two.
Looks like we're making some progress, although the top there, I'd rather eat these than that so far.
Why should we care about developing nations?
Well, the amount of resource that rich countries spend in helping poor countries is pretty small. It's well less than 1% of their budget. I defend that because that money is so impactful. You're saving lives for less than $1,000 per life saved. If you help a country lift itself up, then countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, India get successful enough, they grow their economy so they no longer need aid, they graduate.
Okay, look at this.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that the small
Isn't it crazy?
amount of this thing.
It's like magic. And I liked his answer that basically teaching a man to fish is better than just giving a man a fish. What about the extreme case of a person who's just super self-absorbed who might think, I just don't care if a poor country has a fish or not. It doesn't affect my daily life. I asked what he would say to that person.
The benefits are strong, even if the pure humanitarian, empathetic part isn't the key reason.
So then Bill told me two main reasons we should try and help developing nations, even from a selfish standpoint. The first is for our own safety. If a poor country receives aid, it fosters education and economic opportunity, which makes it more stable. And there's less of a reason for people to become desperate, which is a breeding ground for radical ideologies and terrorism. All America's top generals agree that foreign aid creates stability, which reduces the need for military spending and makes the world a safer place. Additionally, Bill told me there's the issue of diseases. When the next pandemic comes, there's a good chance it will be far worse than Ebola, and it will spread quickly into the rich countries. There's a huge benefit to us in helping these developing nations get their health systems to the point where they can detect and treat bad stuff before it has the chance to go global. And the second selfish reason for helping developing nations that we discussed together was for our own prosperity.
After World War II, you think, hey, do we care about Japan? Well, hey, then Japan, Sony and Toyota, they're making
Nintendo.
good products. Yeah, let's not forget Nintendo. It's a win-win situation, where we want Japan to do well and make great products, and they're buying Boeing jets, Microsoft software, and so having these hopefully the idea that other countries doing well, it's not a zero-sum thing where, okay, if they do well, that means that it's bad for us.
Basically, we need to get the Japanese back to a point where their brains could benefit the world again as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it's a waste of human capital, and the world never knows Super Mario Bros. Which raises an interesting point. If you ask people who is the most intelligent person to ever live, you get various answers like these.
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Did I tell you to say that?
But the fact is, with 100 billion people to have ever lived on planet Earth, it's a statistical certainty that Albert Einstein wasn't the most intelligent human. It was some random person you've never heard of, probably born a long time ago, who spent most of their daily energy just trying to survive. And that's why these packets are a huge deal. When you have nearly 1 billion people spending their time just trying to find clean water every day, that's a huge waste of untapped brain power. And these packets and other aid efforts like them allow parents to stay healthy and gives them time to provide for their families, which gives their kids the opportunity to get educated, which in turn creates more opportunities for the following generation. And so eventually, over time, the entire world starts reaping the benefit from the contribution of this previously untapped human capital. And in this way, some massive breakthrough in solar technology, or maybe the cure to cancer or HIV, might come from a poor country who is just a developing nation today. And I find that to be incredibly inspiring and a worthy goal.
I get to learn a lot. I'm going to be working on these diseases the rest of my life.
Bill Gates, living legend, eater of pizza rolls.
Yeah, not bad.
That was fantastic. Thanks so much, Bill. Now we drink. This guy took a package from my porch, and now he's about to open it in his car, but what he doesn't know is this is a custom-built bait package that is recording him on 4 different cameras, and it's about to unleash a pound of the world's finest glitter, along with some other surprises. But to understand how he got to this point, first, we need to rewind a bit. About 7 months ago, I noticed a package being reported as delivered, but it never arrived, so when I checked our security cameras, I noticed this lovely couple out for a stroll. See, they have backpacks on, and they're just going around the neighborhood making an afternoon out of this. And if you've ever been in a situation like this, you just sort of feel violated. And then I took this to the police, and even with the video evidence, they said it's just not worth their time to look into. So then you also feel powerless. And I just felt like something needs to be done to take a stand against dishonest punks like this. And then I was like, hold up. I built a dartboard that moves to get a bullseye on it. I spent 9 years designing hardware that's currently roving around on another freaking planet. If anyone was going to make a revenge bait package and over-engineer the crap out of it, it was going to be me. So I started with a sketch and some CAD, and then I hit up my buddy Sean, who was really good with this type of small electronic stuff, and we got to work. Ultimately, when they opened the package, package, I just wanted to celebrate their choice of profession with a cloud of glitter. Because, I mean, who doesn't love glitter? That's easy. I can just do that passively with like a spray of glitter. But I also wanted to record their reaction, and that's what makes the engineering here an order of magnitude more difficult. Because if you think about it, this thing has to sit on a porch all day. It can't be plugged in. And you have no idea when someone will come and pick this up. So it's not like you could just hit record on the camera and then put it in the box, because you're going to run out of battery and storage space. On top of that, I need some way to recover this footage in case I never get the big package back. So after 6 months and lots of design iterations and so much testing, here's where we landed. This custom-printed circuit board is the brains of the operation. It has a built-in accelerometer, and when it's jostled, it will check the GPS signal to see if it's been moved from the porch, and if so, it sends a signal to all the phones to wake up and start recording. And I'm using 4 phones that have a wide-angle filming mode and are angled back. And this 3D printed portion is contoured this way because it represents the field of view of the phones. So as you can see, I'm guaranteed to capture their reaction no matter which way they open it from. And nestled in here, we've got a can of fart spray. No joke, you can clear a room with 1 spray of this stuff. So we made a cam on a small motor that sprays it 5 times. And not only is this just a nice touch, but we keep repeating 5 sprays every 30 seconds until they throw the package out of their car or house before they realize there's 4 phones inside. This increases our chances of finding it because we always know the package location at all times due to the GPS on the phones. But even if we don't recover it, all 4 phones have LTE data plans, so they upload the footage to the cloud so I can still see what happened. And then for the pièce de résistance, we have a cup here on top that spins from a motor underneath. So once you load in a butt ton of the world's finest glitter, the motor spins really fast and the centrifugal force fires it evenly in all directions. Then we cut holes in the side of the lid and covered them with one-way film so 2 of the cameras could see them as they walked away. And then finally, to make it look like an actual delivered package, we added some shrink wrap and a delivery label, which is perhaps my favorite part of the whole thing. Because if the thief wasn't in such a hurry, they'd see that the package is actually coming from my childhood hero and inspiration for this project, Kevin McAllister. I even looked up and am using the address of the actual house they filmed the movie in. And of course, it's being shipped to his boys, Harry and Marv. And there's a charge port in the bottom, because if it doesn't get stolen in a given day, I can bring it in and then recharge all the batteries in the system overnight. So the idea is the bad guy comes and takes it off your porch, then lifts the lid, and these 2 limit switches tell the circuit board brain inside that the lid's been removed. And then that sets everything in motion. And I may be biased, but sometimes a well-engineered design is beautiful. Because the phones have GPS, we created a virtual geofence around my house, so I get a notification when the package has been moved off the property. So I put it out on the porch, and now all that was left to do was wait. Okay, so I was at work, and I got a notification that the geofence we set up had been tripped. So then I checked the cameras, and sure enough, the package is gone. So I checked the GPS and sort of tracked it, and it appears they're in a car because they seem to leave my house pretty quickly, but it seems to have stopped in a parking garage, which is where I'm headed to now. And if you're new here, this isn't a prank channel, so I am completely out of my comfort zone. And there she is. Oh. This is like recovering the black box of a crashed airplane. It would still work even if I didn't get the box back. The footage would upload to the cloud, but it's just faster to plug the phones in. So I'm gonna go home and find out how this somehow ended up here. So it appears he was walking down the sidewalk and then suddenly makes a hard left. Then he takes the package and gets in his car and eventually makes it to this parking garage where this glorious sequence unfolds.
fair.
So the moral of the story is, just don't take other people's stuff. Not only is it not cool, but on the plus side, you'll never find yourself in this situation. Or perhaps even worse, this one. Why do horns and musical instruments have this flared shape? To answer this question, about a year ago, I decided I would take this and scale it up to this. And I've never actually made something this big for my channel before, so as usual, we decided to make a smaller prototype model to see what we can learn about the challenges that would come from scaling it all the way up. So we started by creating a plaster mold with the right curvature. Then you cover that with a gel coat, and then we put 3 layers of fiberglass and polyester resin. And then when you pop it out of the mold, you're left with this. And we were immediately struck that there is in fact something really special about this shape. So I'm going to switch over from my lav mic to my shotgun mic for this demo.
And then hear my voice using the horn. You can even hear me whisper, which is creepy.
So this was proof that the curved shape of the horn had a significant effect on amplifying the input sound, but I still wasn't sure why. So now it's time to really scale things up to the big monster horn, which we did by applying all the same principles we learned on the prototype, and then we headed to the most desolate location we could find on Google Maps to put it together.
Can you hear me? Hello over there.
It feels like you're like right on my shoulder.
As you know, the base of the horn is what's responsible for creating all the sound. So to see what's inside, I thought it was only appropriate to open it with my friends Dan and Lincoln from the popular YouTube channel, What's Inside. And it turns out it's pretty simple. The key is this thin metal circular plate, or diaphragm. So the air comes in here at 100 psi and passes around this diaphragm in such a way that it causes it to vibrate 110 times in a second, which causes a corresponding pressure wave to shoot out here and down the throat of the horn. So after a few hours, everything was finally set up, and it was the moment of truth. Since after 8 months, none of us had actually ever heard it fire yet, and Lincoln hadn't even seen the thing because we made him wait in the car.
You ready? 1, 2, here it is.
But before we fire it, we need to first talk about how hearing works and what I eventually learned about why horns have that curved shape. Let's say this Jello block represents a volume of air molecules. If that horn diaphragm hits the Jello molecules over here, there's a chain reaction of Jello molecules crashing into each other until finally you see movement on the other side of the Jello block. And this is where your eardrum is. So it moves back and forth at the same rate as the horn diaphragm because of all of these collisions of the Jello molecules in between. This is called a pressure wave, and it's how sound travels through air. And so if the horn diaphragm is hitting the air molecules at a high frequency, or very frequently, our brain decodes that
as a high pitch.
But if the crashes are happening at a low frequency or less frequently, then our brain decodes that as a low pitch. Okay, but why the curvy horn shape? Well, that has to do with something called impedance matching. Basically, the horn diaphragm is very solid and strong, and it pushes against the air, which doesn't offer much resistance. It's not very effective, like trying to break a piece of paper by punching it. So without the curvy horn portion, as the diaphragm moves back and forth, it interfaces with the air sort of like this. You can still see the Jellos moving on the opposite side, just not that much because the air is just too thin and weak over this small of an area. So to have a better interface with the air, you put a big curvy shape right after the diaphragm. You can see now your eardrum is moving back and forth much more vigorously because the interface is so much better. So it sounds louder with a curved horn, not because you're amplifying the sound, but because you're conserving the sound. This makes sense because amplifying means you're adding power to the system, and there's no battery or plugs at the curved section of a horn. It's passive. So by impedance matching, you give yourself a much larger area to push against all the air at the outlet, which makes for a more effective chain reaction of molecules crashing into your eardrum. And now the horn.
Is that pretty loud?
Wow, that's so cool.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah.
This actually isn't a horn, it's that. Behind you, now you can look.
Oh my.
Oh my gosh! This is like 8 months of work. That's the first time we've actually fired off. And that's behind the horn.
I can feel the vibrations.
Yeah.
Not even in front of the thing.
We're gonna go see what it's like on the other side. All right, so we're about 2 football fields away from the horn. We have no idea how loud this is gonna sound here. All right, Ken, fire the normal air horn. Yeah, we could hear it. Now we're a little nervous because you could hear it decently well.
All right, firing.
So for our second test, we drove about a mile away. You can barely see the horn right here.
All right, Ken, fire.
No! Yes.
I mean, you can hardly see that massive horn, but it's still super loud. So let's just try. Just keep going. All right, we're gonna go real far.
So from a satellite view, this is where the horn was. Here was the first spot, and then the second spot. And then here was the third spot, 2.5 miles away.
Okay, so the horn is now super far away. I literally can't see it with my naked eye.
Like, I can barely see this right at the crest of the hill. A little tiny speck, and it's right there.
We're gonna do an experiment, and we're gonna test the speed of sound. We should hear it on this walkie-talkie, and then some amount of time later, we might be able to hear it from this distance. Lincoln's gonna measure the time on his stopwatch, and then we should be able to calculate from there what the speed of sound is. We're ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Wait for it. That's crazy! How long? It took 11 seconds for the sound of the horn to get here. It's so clear, like I feel like we can go 10 miles further.
Think about what this means. It took an unbroken chain of 2.5 miles of air molecules, 11 seconds to all collide with each other until they made it all the way down here and bumped into the air molecules in our ear canals, which then bumped into our eardrums. So the sun was quickly going down, but before we went home, we wanted to try and break some glass. And if you want to break glass with what is essentially little puffs of air, the trick is to find out its resonant frequency.
You actually know all about this if you've ever used one of these. I can make Eliza go really high with just a little force. Now if I apply that force at random intervals, it doesn't do very much. It's not fun, huh? No, it's not fun. But if I apply that force equal to the timing of the natural frequency of the swing, those little pushes add to each other. And so in this case, the resonant frequency increased our fun. But if engineers don't take this into consideration, it could lead to disaster, such as when wind gusts going at just the right rate destroyed the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It's also why soldiers don't march in unison when crossing a bridge.
So if you measure the natural frequency of the glass with an accelerometer like this, then you just need to make sure your horn fires at that exact frequency or a multiple thereof. Or you can just change the natural frequency of the glass to match your horn by adding weights in the right spot. power and accuracy is insane to me. And while throwing cards isn't necessarily my strong suit, I can design and build stuff, so I made the world's first deadly powerful playing card machine gun. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the design and performance of my machine. And then to really test it out, I'm going to go head-to-head, man versus machine, in a series of challenges against the best card thrower in the world. Here we go. So to start off, you load a deck of cards in the bottom right here, and then there's really two parts to the gun. First, you want to slide the cards forward one at a time from the top of the deck underneath. That's what this belt and pull is for. And by turning this variable resistor, we can adjust the feed speed. And then for the second part, you've got this main wheel with O-rings stretched around that's attached to this brushless DC motor. The cards are pushed under the wheel and it contacts on the left side and it spins them out underneath like this. It works because there's a gap under the spinning wheel that's just barely smaller than the thickness of a single card. And to build it as usual, first we started in CAD, then machined the main body out of aluminum C-channel. After that, it was just a matter of putting it together and running a lot of tests. And so this is what it looks like running in single shot mode, and then machine gun mode, and then Robin Hood mode. And perhaps my favorite part is if you want extra stability, you just push this button. I think I'm happy enough with how it's performing at this point, so now it's time for the real test. And to do that, I tracked down a man who could throw a playing card from just about anything. Rick Smith Jr. So how many world records do you hold, Rick?
I hold 3 Guinness Book World Records. Throwing a playing card the farthest 72 yards, 92 miles an hour. The highest and considered the most accurate.
Alright, so in order to objectively test how good this really is, I am challenging the best the human race has to offer. 3 rounds, man versus machine.
Let's do this.
This is like a metaphor.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel with all of humanity's hopes and dreams resting squarely on your shoulders?
I'm really worried on this. This is pretty impressive.
I will say it looks, I think, a little more intimidating than it is. This is highly over. Let's go. All right. Go!
Yeah! 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Even though I beat him in the first of our 3 rounds, Rick said he'd show me a few of his trick shots. Round 2.
Are you ready?
Right now, I just want to say, machines 1, humanity 0.
Oh, well, this is about accuracy. Is your machine accurate as it is fast?
Even more accurate than it is fast, but I'll prove that to you. I throw the olive up, 1 chance.
1 chance.
Slice it clean through.
I got it.
Oh! What? time for the machine.
Let's go. Jeez.
I mean, that was close.
That was not close at all.
There's gotta be something there. You switched the olives.
I did not.
You're a magician. Whatever. It's fine. 1-1, I guess.
Oh my God, that scared me. I want you to think of a playing card, any playing card on it. We've been playing with cards all day long. Awesome, name that card now.
Ace of spades.
It's a common card. You sure you want that card?
Yeah.
All right.
This is an ace of spades.
Well, that's my business card. I don't know why that's in there. But you really want the ace of spades? You can change it if you'd like. I don't want you to be able to.
I do want to change.
Well, you're changing it.
Yeah, well, you said
All right, what are you changing it to?
3 clubs.
I knew he would. Look at this.
And this
Look. You look through the cards like this slowly. Look. You'll see that one card and one card only is different. It happens to be the 3 of clubs.
Stop!
Is that it?
Oh, what?
So cool.
My mind just broke. I hate you so much.
I'm so sorry.
The world is no longer true. It's witchcraft! And to help calm my very troubled mind before the final showdown, I decided we should blow some stuff up.
You guys ready?
Woo! Yeah! skip in another video, we talked about how spinning things are more stable because of Newton's first law. So Rick really flicks his wrist to maximize the card rotation, which keeps it stable and level, slicing through the air much longer than anyone else on the planet. All right, Rick Smith Jr.
All right, Mark Roberg.
This is the last competition.
Okay, what are we doing?
First one to stick it in water balloons.
That should be easy. One try.
There's the one catch, the cool little twist is you have to shoot under the waterfall. Okay?
All right, so you're gonna give us a countdown?
I'll count down. This is it. Man versus machine. Is it this over-engineered NASA piece of junk? Or the collegiate baseball throwing Guinness World Record card thrower? Place your bets in the comments below. Just don't forget to take this into consideration. When I count to 3.
On 3.
Got 1, 2. And so while the robot uprising is undeniably marching closer every day, at least for the time being, Rick Smith Jr. has our back. If you want to learn how to throw cards like Rick Smith Jr., he actually put up a tutorial video on his channel. It's actually a super teachable skill, because I started out like this, and less than 5 minutes later, I was doing this. So go check that out and sub his channel for more cool magic and card trick shots. Rick, could we go maybe a little thinner on those slices, pal? You're just about everything. Another go ahead. I'm too fast for you, dog. I'm too fast for you. I saw this video on Twitter with over 5 million views, and then again on YouTube with nearly 1 million views. Basically, this guy modified his cell phone case with propellers to take selfies, which is awesome. My only issue with it is that it's not only fake, but it's a scam, which I'll explain in a minute. But as for it being fake, the first clue is that these are 3-volt 7mm microbrush motors like you see here. If you attach one to a beam like this and turn it on at full throttle, you'll see the most weight that it can lift is 6/4, or about 30 grams. The cell phone in the video with all the flying gear attached would weigh about 300 grams. And since drones are typically designed to hover at 70% max thrust, you would need at least 15 of these motors to do what you did. But you know, this just doesn't look as catchy. In fact, we recreated the exact setup used in the video and turned the motors to full throttle, and this is what happened. Here it is in slow-mo, and as you can see, there's hardly any difference than if you don't turn the propellers on at all. So I'm going to show you how this scam artist somehow manages to break the laws of physics 4 more times in this 3-minute video, and then because obeying the laws of physics isn't optional, we're going to call up fellow YouTuber Captain Disillusion to see if he can help us spot any signs of special effects. And then, with my buddy Peter Schriepel, I'm going to show you what it would take to actually build a flying selfie phone case, and then I'll put all the details on a new site I built using Wix.com. But before I do any of that, let me first explain why this is a scam and not just a harmless fake video for meaningless. With this many views and an astounding 80% like ratio, which means most people probably didn't realize it was fake, it's a statistical certainty that some young, aspiring engineer actually tried to build this themselves. Worse than their parents' phone dropping like a rock and breaking, this might have been his or her first experience in making something. But how, you might ask, would they know what components to use? Well, here in the description, Amazing Maker was kind enough to put links. Amazon affiliate links. You can tell by the URLs. So he is making money off of the crushed dreams of aspiring engineers without enough experience yet to know that this is total BS. And aspiring engineers are my people. And you don't mess with me. Let's do this. The second gratuitous violation of physics comes in this scene. Force of gravity always points down, but a helicopter's spinning blades create a force perpendicular to the blades themselves. So if you want to hover, you need to be level so the forces will cancel out and you won't move. If you tilt forward and then break the thrust force into its X and Y components, you suddenly have an unbalanced force that will move you in that direction. In essence, that's how helicopters move forward, by tipping forward. In other words, it's physically impossible to hover in an orientation like this. The forward thrust component is unbalanced, and it would have to move the phone forward. The third major issue is the Arduino-compatible circuit board he chose. It's the same board here, and it's supposed to be the brains for the drone, yet this specific model of board doesn't come with any sort of gyroscope or accelerometer. Here's why that matters. If you've ever tried balancing something on your hand like this, you and your body were creating what's referred to as a closed-loop feedback control system. So if it starts to tip over, my eyes relay that to my brain, and my hand says, hey, I'm no longer feeling the weight just up and down, it's also pushing my hand this way. And so my brain takes all that information and responds by telling my hand to move this way at a specific speed in order to compensate. So to keep this thing balanced, there's this continuous loop of quickly gathering information and then making real-time adjustments. And closed feedback loops are used all over in engineering. From the simple case of a thermostat that continuously checks the air and turns on at a certain temperature, to dartboards that update their position 200 times a second to get a bullseye every time, to machines that are abused, and most certainly for anything that flies and needs to stay in the air. The fact that his board is missing a gyroscope and an accelerometer means there's no way for it to tell if it's starting to rotate or to fall in any direction. It's the equivalent of trying to balance the board wearing a blindfold and an oven mitt. You have no idea what adjustments to make to keep things balanced. Which is the perfect lead-in to the fourth major physics flaw. Notice how he attaches these motors and rigidly fixes them to the phone with double-stick tape. This means if you start to tip forward, you have no way to self-correct the phone orientation, and it would just turn into a nosedive. If you only have 2 propellers in this configuration, they both need to be able to rotate with respect to the phone in order to correct for movements in all 6 degrees of freedom. For example, if it starts to tip forward, you could rotate them both back like this to correct for that. Or if the wind is trying to spin the phone this way, they could assume this configuration to counter that. To return to our balancing shovel analogy, by fixing the motors directly to the case, you lose your ability to even make corrections. So not only do you have no idea where to move, but your arm is locked out from making adjustments anyways, which makes it literally impossible to balance. Ow. And my final physics issue with this video is one of acoustics. This guy proposes using it as a hands-free way to watch your favorite super hip music videos, conveniently dubbing over the audio here. For reference, this is what an episode of The Office would sound like on a phone at full volume. And don't forget, you would actually need 13 more motors than this, so it would be at least 6 times louder. So now that we've thoroughly established a multitude of physical laws have been broken, let's find out exactly how he faked it. And to do that, I've arranged a video call with the undisputed heavyweight champion of debunking fake videos using special effects, Captain Disillusion.
Make sure to get it as flush as possible against your skin to minimize folds that might make it hard to chroma key out, like this. Nice and tight.
Captain!
Oh, hi, Mark. Mark Rober, you weren't supposed to call yet.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm actually even 5 minutes late.
Really? Well then. How can I help you?
Did you not even watch the video I sent?
Yes, of course, the mobile drone video. I've analyzed it thoroughly, Mark, and my conclusion is it's totally real.
Seriously?
Yes. Everything except for the mobile drone part. That's fake. If you look very closely, you might just be able to make out the huge, shattering mask on the side of the phone, visible in every shot of it flying. The creator must have been in a real hurry because it's so messy. Here it cuts off the edge of the phone, here the tip of his finger, and here it reveals the thing it's supposed to be hiding, a rod. It's narrow and light-colored, and probably attached with the same mounting tape he used to tack on all the other gadgets. That's why he's able to grab and adjust the phone in this shot. By the river, the mask hides not just the stick, but the whole person holding it. Look closer. On this side, the real-time water, and on this side, a still frame from an empty version of the shot. And if we track the phone's position and rotation, we can easily reverse engineer exactly how the stick puppeteered it, rotating mostly from the point where it was held.
Wow. That was very impressive, Captain D. Thank you for taking the time.
My favorite part of this whole thing is the audio. The tiny propellers must have made so little noise at a distance, it didn't give a proper drone vibe. So the hoaxers recorded the sound of the motors up close and reused the same clip in every scene, complete with their muttering voices in the background.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for...
Even more impressive is the number of posts, messages, and tweets, presumably from people with functioning eyeballs, asking me if this painfully obvious edit is real, over and over.
Okay, Captain, well, take care. I've got to go back to my...
Even you, Mark! How could you do this to me? How could you do...
He's such a joker. Well, it's fake. And now you know exactly all the reasons why. But it's still a really interesting idea, and I was curious what it would look like if you actually built one of these using less special effects and more practical engineering. So naturally I called in my buddy Peter Schriepel, whose qualifications include building his own electric plane from scratch, and he immediately got to work. Turns out if you take 2 brushless motors, 2 electronic motor speed controllers, a flight controller that actually has a gyroscope and an accelerometer integrated, a 3D printed frame and 2 servos to articulate the rotors, a radio transmitter for remote control, and a 4-cell LiPo battery, and then you put them all together, it actually works. Kind of. We had to do a bunch of test flights to calibrate that feedback control loop we talked about before. So if we notice the drone is either undercompensating or overcompensating when it starts to fall in a certain way, we tweak the response sensitivity in between flights until we get to the sweet spot. And I should mention, remember how the motors from the fake video could barely lift only 6 quarters? Well, if you properly size them for the task at hand, they should be able to lift 150 quarters. And so once we felt like we had it in pretty good shape, we took her out for the maiden test flight. In our defense, it was a little windy out there, but as you can see, it could be pretty wobbly at times. The truth is, a bicopter like this totally works, it just isn't a great design choice. The reason pretty much all camera drones are quadcopters is because they're much more stable due to a larger footprint shared between 4 motors. And by getting clever with the throttle speeds, you can move in all 6 degrees of freedom with no moving parts. So there you go. With solid engineering, you don't need hidden rods or masking and rotoscoping, and Sir Isaac Newton can once again comfortably rest in his grave. So the moral of the story is just don't cheat and lie and scam. I actually considered going a little easier on Amazing Maker, but then I happened to scan some of his other videos, like this knee brace that charges your phone and even powers this flashlight as you walk. In theory. I'll skip the details, but in reality this system would also never work as shown, which is why if you rewind that and stabilize on his hand in the pocket, you see him click a hidden flashlight switch. Thanks for watching. In a room, and you have to solve a series of puzzles and locks to get out in exactly 1 hour. And today, I'm going to give you 10 proven tips to dominate any type of escape. And I say proven because me and 6 of my buddies utilize these tips, and even though about half of us have never even done an escape room before, we shattered the long-standing record for this room by finishing in 38 minutes with no clues. Next, we tried an even harder room to prove that it wasn't just luck, and there again, we finished in 46 minutes. And so the evidence seemed compelling, but for further proof, I had my niece and nephew and a bunch of their friends first try a room without me telling them the tips. They only made it about halfway through at the end of the full hour. Then we walked through the 10 tips together, and then they went back to a new room with an equal level of difficulty, and this time they finished in 55 minutes with no clues. Now you're probably thinking, what qualifies me to be giving tips about escape rooms when I've only ever done 3 myself? And the answer is absolutely nothing. They're actually not my tips. I tracked down the architect and designer of the Red Bull Escape Room World Championships. He's a college professor. His name is Scott Nicholson. The problem is, I live here in California, and he's way over here in Brantford, Ontario in Canada. And while it's typically a 12-hour trip through the magic of YouTube, I knew I could make it there in just a 6-second travel montage. Okay, so I am here now in Canada at the Begin Lab at Laurier University with Scott Nicholson. Scott, what the heck do you do? What is this place?
Well, this place is where I make games. Our focus here is actually making games that change the world. So a lot of the games we make here have some sort of learning outcome. Our goal is to help get people to learn stuff in a playful way.
So Professor Nicholson and I hung out together for a day as he generously spilled out the information in his very large brain. He even put me through a few challenges and puzzles of my own. And so here are the 10 tips I came away with after hanging out with him. The first tip is to think simple, think generally. Keep reminding yourself that the average person should be able to complete this room in 1 hour. In a well-designed room, you won't need any extra knowledge besides what you can just find in the room. People tend to overanalyze and just go down a rabbit hole. So for example, in one room, we found the travel log of a robber, and he went from Washington down to Mexico City up to Toronto. At first, we were trying to look at the interstates he would travel on, and maybe that was a code, and then we're like, maybe we should unscramble the names of the countries, and then we realized his path forms a V, which happened to be the first letter in a combination lock we were trying to open. If you can't find a simple answer to a puzzle, chances are it's because all the necessary information hasn't been revealed to you yet. So move on and then come back to it later. The second tip deals with searching. The first thing you should do when you enter a room is for everyone to split up and to start looking for clues and items. Professor Nicholson actually put me through my own searching boot camp to point out the typical places that things are hidden.
There you go. Always look under tables. Always look under rugs. They write codes on the back of rugs.
Other spots might be in hollowed out books or in pockets of clothing or behind a door in the room. A super common first-time mistake is to look in places you shouldn't. For example, you won't find a clue by disassembling a ceiling light or a power outlet. Another common searching mistake is to see clues in things that aren't. For example, the bottom of this chair has letters and numbers from the factory, but they're obviously not part of the room design because they don't fit with the theme. Going back to tip 1, the clues and key items should be fairly obvious in a well-designed room. And the more escape rooms you do, the more you'll get a sense for what is and isn't a real clue. Tip 3, organize organize your stuff. As you search the room, put all the clues and items in one location. So if you found 3 similar cups like this with numbers on the bottom, group them together. As you do this, the bigger picture begins to emerge, and it's easier to tell what you're missing. Don't let people just walk around with an item randomly in their hand that others don't know about. You can ask before you start, but almost all rooms have a policy where you use one clue or one lock only one time. So once you've used a clue or item, put it in a discard pile, and be sure to leave any key in the lock that it opened. This helps avoid unnecessary wasting of time when a team member is working on a puzzle they don't realize has already been solved and used. For tip 4, now that your team is starting to make sense of the room, laser focus on what is stopping you from moving forward. You are going to feel overwhelmed at the beginning. Even with our record-breaking times, about halfway through, I thought there is no way we're going to even come close to finishing. But then you solve one thing and then everything else starts falling into place. To help with this, work backwards from the thing that is stopping you. Identify the inputs it needs. For example, in this room, you see there's a lock here, and it looks like the key is right here. But you need some kind of hanger to fish it out. Now there's a cabinet on the wall that probably contains that hanger, and it has a lock that needs 3 letters and 2 numbers. So now you can focus on clues that will yield 3 numbers and 2 letters. You won't be as vulnerable to red herrings.
So red herring is something that's put into the room that has no bearing upon the game. It can be something simple.
Oh, this has got to be really important.
Clearly. Or some rooms even have red herring puzzles that lead to nothing. As a player, it's incredibly frustrating. And so we've done some studies. So most players hate red herrings because they're a waste of our time. About half designers hate red herrings and not put them in their rooms. And about half are like, yeah, they're okay to have in the room.
By working backwards on the immediate inputs that are needed, you'll avoid wasting time on red herring clues. Tip 5 is about team roles. According to Dr. Nicholson, poor communication is the #1 reason why teams fail. He has a list of 8 different roles that team members can be assigned, which I will link below, but the one that seemed the most critical in our experience was project manager, because it helps alleviate this issue of poor communication.
The project manager shouldn't get overly involved in puzzles. Instead, the project manager is the person people report to and say, hey, there's a 4-digit combination lock over there. And the project manager will call that out. Okay, everyone, we're looking for 4 digits. Someone comes up and says, hey, there's a 5-letter word lock there. Okay, we're looking for 5 letters. There's a poster over there that looks funny. Okay, so everyone take a look at that poster. If you're searching for something, you might find it in that poster. So the project manager should keep an idea of what are the active tasks, what needs to be done, who's working on what, and keep the game flow going. But try to keep themselves out of getting buried in puzzles so they can keep a scan of what's happening.
So the first 5 tips focused on general team strategies, but the last half will be about puzzle solving strategies. You should be familiar with the most common locks and their inputs, because again, if you're working back from what's stopping you and you know a lock requires 3 letters, then everyone can just focus on finding 3 letters. The standard key lock is the most obvious, then a combination lock where you're just looking for 4 numbers in a specific order, or here where it's a combination lock of letters and numbers, but 5 total. Then your classic dial lock where you need 3 numbers total, and you start by spinning clockwise, then open it like this. Then you've got this directional lock, which is a little trickier because it can have anywhere from 2 to 30 inputs. Squeeze down here 3 times to wipe it clean if you need to try again. Finally, you have one of these lock boxes that are again tricky because they've got anywhere from 2 to 10 inputs. But it's good to know they can only use each number once, and the order doesn't matter. So 1605 works, but so does 5061. A critical tip with locks is if you're pretty sure you have the right code but it's not opening, have someone else try before you move on. Just given the pressure of the game, we had this tip save us on 3 separate occasions. And finally, you can skip trying to figure out the last digit if you know all the rest of them just by trial and error, because there will only be 10 options. According to Professor Nicholson's research, about half of all escape rooms will have some kind of code that you need to decipher.
There's a few basic codes I've seen again and again, and just knowing what they look like is useful. Now, you're not going to be expected to memorize the encoding scheme, but it tells you, we're looking for an encoding scheme.
So in the upper left, anytime you see dots and dashes, you should be thinking Morse code. Usually it's written, but sometimes it can be lights that are flashing long and short, or even long and short sounds. The upper right is called Pipin cipher, and it's often disguised as hieroglyphics. The key will look something like this, so see if you can decode the message. Then anytime you see dots in a group of 6 like this, you know you're looking at a Braille key. Each letter in Braille is some combination of 6 dots. And finally, Dr. Nicholson said in his experience, the only time you might not get a decoder key is if there are a set of numbers ranging from 1 to 26. In that case, you match them up with the corresponding letter in the alphabet, so this becomes H-E-L-L-O.
Tip 8 is about written clues. Dr. Nicholson created this challenge for me of the 4 most common styles of hiding clues in written text. Pause the video and see if you can find the 4 separate hidden messages here. The first is the most obvious with the bold letters. Look at the watch face. The second are all the words missing a letter, so remove the telephone keypad, find the secret. Next, and this one stumped us for a little while in one of the rooms we did, is to just look at the capitalized words. The secret code is 6734. And finally, if you look at the first word of each new line on the left side, the secret phrase is good night, sweet prince. The key to each of these is looking for something that stands out from the normal pattern you'd expect to see, which leads us to our second to last tip. Look for patterns. Dr. Nicholson gave me one last challenge here.
Now the lock that you have lights indicate you need to enter things in the order red, green, blue.
This one is pretty straightforward, but what do you think the code is here? In fact, pause the video if you want to decipher all 3 codes on the board here. The top is 436, based on the number of sides. This one at the bottom, you just need to count the different colored circles and then enter them in that order. So 3641. And finally in the middle, you see this digital numerical notation used a lot in escape rooms. So here, the code is 547. Apologies to my colorblind peeps out there because you probably couldn't solve that last one, which is exactly the type of reason why you should cycle people through trying to solve the tough puzzles. A fresh perspective is all it takes in many cases. This helped us multiple times. And for the final tip, your guide is your friend. Listen closely when they're giving their instructions at the beginning. A lot of times they will give subtle hints about issues that trip a lot of people up. You can also ask them high-level questions like if they have a one lock, one use policy. And even if you don't want hints, you can ask them to prompt you if you're way behind where most people would be at a certain point. At the end of the day, you're there to have fun, so it's better to take a hint and feel the excitement of escaping the room than being stuck on a frustrating clue for 40 minutes. And finally, fewer people is almost always better. Statistically, you'll have a higher success rate because you don't have to deal with the issues of poor communication amongst 10 people, but there's also a finite number of fun things to do in a room. So the fewer people you have, the more fun stuff that everyone gets to do. To quote from Dr. Nicholson's Twitter, my policy for the number of people in an escape room is the same as the number of people in a tent. No matter what the package says, you'll have a better time at half capacity. And so there you go. Now you know all the best strategies to dominate your next escape room. Thanks for watching. Scientifically proven best way to skip a rock. This is kind of hard to figure out because every rock you throw is a little different. Not to mention your throwing motion might accidentally vary in between throws. So to solve that, I built a perfect rock skipping robot with my nieces and nephews. So today I'm going to show you how we used what we learned from the perfect robot to improve their throws on average from 3 to 13 skips. Let's get started. This is Lake Kavanaugh. It's located here in Washington State. I came here every summer for a few weeks as a kid growing up, and my memory of it is just this magical place to be outdoors and to be with family, but to also discover my independence. And of course, to find a way to compete in anything, including rock skipping. And this was my first time back in 15 years, so to commemorate that, I wanted to build something really cool. So we took a clay pigeon thrower and tweaked the spring, and machined an adapter plate, and then made some custom throwing arms from wood. Then we created a base for stability. And now all that was left was to challenge my nieces and nephews to a rock skipping contest. Only I might have neglected to tell them about my creation. Actually, forget this. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. So it actually wasn't that impressive right out of the gate, but that was intentional because for this video, I wanted to pull back the curtain on some secrets about the engineering design process. There are 4 steps I follow for any big project I've ever built on this channel or in real life. The first is research. I will go online and look at any published papers, watch any videos on the topic, and then talk via Skype or email with any experts I can find. That usually gives me a a rough idea of where to start, and so the next step is to build a prototype. A good prototype is cheap and easy to reconfigure, so you could try a lot of different things. And then step 3 is to do a sensitivity analysis with the prototype. That means we try lots of different combinations of settings to see what actually matters and what doesn't. And only at that point are we ready to take what we've learned and move to step 4, which is building the final version. So often people want to jump straight to step 4, which usually won't work, but it's almost worse if it does, because you have no confidence that you're close to the optimal design. For the rock skipping robot, I'd already done steps 1 and 2, so we all sat down and brainstormed about step 3, and all the things we could tweak to find the right conditions for the perfect skip. Eventually we came up with 4 different things to test, but before we did that, I was told the robot needed to look a lot cooler. Clearly accomplished, here are the 4 variables we decided to test. The first was wrist angle of the robot. This will change the angle of the rock relative to the water, as you can see here. So should it be perfectly flat, or really steep, or something in between? Next was finding the right arm angle. This changes the angle of the path of the rock relative to the water. So is this better, or is this better, or something in between? The last 2 variables had to do with the rocks, but since every rock is going to be unique, we needed a way to control this, so we decided to make our own rocks out of unfired clay. That allowed us to make lots of samples and to see how many more skips you would get if you varied either the diameter or the thickness. And if you've ever seen a primitive technology video, you know clay is just dirt and water. This is great because it means it has a similar density to a rock, and if you dry it in the sun, it's hard like a rock, but then it only takes about 30 minutes to totally dissolve away once you put it in the water. Then we set up a testing plan, and for each throw we would change only one thing and then count the number of skips. That way if we suddenly saw a huge improvement, we know it would be from the thing that we just changed. That's why having a robot is way better than using a human, because it allows you to independently change one thing at a time. And so as you can imagine, we had a lot of skips that look like this, or this, or this. But then we started to narrow in on some key parameters, and then they started to look more like this. I'm not exactly sure how you count all those little skips at the end, but depending on that, I would think we got some throws well into the 60s. And so in the end, we discovered there are 4 steps to achieving the perfect rock skip. The first is that you want the angle of your rock relative to the water to be about 20 degrees. This is the optimal angle to allow the rock to sort of crash into the water and then to make a ramp, and then use its forward momentum to ride up that ramp and shoot back up out of the water. And that's the exact physics that explains why rocks skip. Next, you want the path of your rock relative to the water surface to be about 20 degrees. This means you sort of need to start the throw high, which gives you some potential energy to put into the system. In the same way, a ball bounced from this height will bounce more times than a ball bounced from here. Now, before making this video, I assumed you wanted to throw as low and parallel to the water as possible, like this. But actually, the ideal throw looks something more like this. Here's the guy who holds the world record in rock skipping, throwing from a bridge to demonstrate you don't need a super low throw of the water to have it skip. The third key is to flip the rock through wrist as much as possible to get it spinning. As you know, spinning things are more stable. This is because they have angular momentum and resist having it changed according to Newton's first law. So spinning, and therefore stability, is important because it will maintain that magic 20-degree ramp angle with the water, as you can see here. If it's not spinning enough, it will rotate over and then sink. And finally, rock choice is important, but not in the way I originally thought. Primarily, it just needs to be flat on the bottom to create that ramp, but weight and diameter don't matter nearly as much. The heavier the better because you put more energy into the system, but not so big that you can't reach the terminal velocity of your arm by the time you release the rock. This is especially important for kids. They'll see much more success with small, lightweight rocks. And I should also mention that we looked back and checked a couple of papers we discovered about rock skipping, and for the most part, it matched really closely to what we discovered ourselves. And so armed with our new knowledge, I put all the nieces and nephews through Rock Skip Boot Camp to get the perfect technique into their muscle memories. And while it started a bit rough, they all eventually graduated. And the principles translated perfectly. And so after a hard workout, like all true performance athletes, we carb loaded. So there you have it. In addition to learning to skip rocks like a pro, hopefully you pick up some tips on the engineering design process. People ask me all the time, I have an egg drop competition coming up, here are the materials I can use, what's the best solution? I don't know. No one does without running some tests, because it depends on the actual rules of the competition, or maybe the brand new materials you chose, or how you actually put it together. So you should do some Googling for inspiration, and then make a bunch of prototypes, and do small changes on each to see what matters and what doesn't. And only then go back and build your final version with some confidence that you're going to dominate the competition. To support this beast. It's Volkswagen's carbon fiber dual engine, faster than a Formula One electric supercar, for the upcoming infamous 12.5-mile Pikes Peak race to the top of a really high mountain in Colorado. And they gave me no further instructions on how they wanted it done, so I thought how cool would it be to charge it up using one of those science fair lemon batteries. And since I'm pretty sure using only one lemon isn't going to cut it, my plan is to build the Guinness World Record of the world's largest lemon battery. And when it comes to making ridiculous things, no one is better at that than fellow YouTube engineer William P. Austin. The first video I saw of yours was when you biohacked your dog. How did that work?
Not well. We tried to dangle a hot dog in front of a dog's face on a mechanical backpack, and then you can steer the hot dog to try to get the dog to change directions. And what he ended up doing was sitting down and eating them.
So we've estimated this should take about 3 days for us to build, and yet I've only allotted 2 minutes for this in the video. So you know what that means.
You plan on your videos?
We didn't want our battery setup to just be a mangled mess of wires, so William had the brilliant idea to water jet out a bunch of copper and zinc strips, which we could then assemble into racks. We wired the first half of the racks to be in parallel, and that was in series with the second half of the racks, which were also all in parallel. And then at that point, all we had to do was impale some lemons. Speaking of which, in addition to harvesting from my own backyard, I visited some local farms and got their Class 2 lemons, which means they couldn't be sold in stores because they were either overripe, misshapen, or too small. And when one finds oneself in possession of 1,232 lemons, turns out you can't not do this.
What's my safe word? Yeah!
So here we have the world's largest lemon battery, and now is the moment of truth to see just how much power this could actually make for us. But in order to understand the results, let's first review how a lemon can even make power in the first place. The trick is picking the right metals to stick into the lemon. In this case, zinc really wants to get rid of electrons, and then copper really wants to collect them. But they can't do that unless they're connected by some kind of electrolyte, and that's the lemon juice. Once that happens, an electrochemical reaction occurs at the base, and the electrons can now move. And moving electrons is the very definition of electricity. It's sort of like how the water up high in the full cup naturally wants to flow to the empty cup lower down, but it can't do that until you connect the two with the straw, which allows the water to flow. So in this case, obviously, the higher cup is the zinc, the lower cup is the copper, and the straw is the lemon. And so then the flowing water represents our electricity or power. And so with that,
we're measuring just under 5 volts, and the short circuit current is not great, Mark. Basically, our lemon battery is awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's impressive.
No.
The fact that it works as well as it does is cool, but as well as it works is not well. Does that make any sense? It's like, it's
whatever you just said. Just stop. And to quantify the suckiness better, you can listen to a motor running off our 1200 lemons versus a single AA battery. So it wasn't looking good for the car, but we weren't about to let 3 days of work go down the drain.
So because the battery produces so little power, we use a tiny high gear ratio motor, 1500 to 1, to charge up our potential energy, which is more lemons. So it should take about 15 minutes to lift this bag, and then we can release that all at once to activate our lemon juicing mechanism.
Basically, like, all of these guys are working together to like drain the lifeblood from one of their brethren.
Maybe this was too dark.
Okay, William, moment of truth.
I'm so excited.
Give me some of that.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, delicious.
Wow.
Refreshing. Organic.
Not worth 10 hours.
Amazing.
12 hours.
Totally worth it. This is the most expensive glass of lemonade you will ever have.
Yes, that actually I think is a fact.
It's a win in my book.
I'm gonna finish this.
I'm not. So we let the lemons trickle charge for a couple days, and after that, the total power we harvested for the Volkswagen racing team was the equivalent of a single AA battery. And I should mention that since the race team is busy getting the car ready for the race in Colorado, they have sent me this monstrous 48 kilowatt hour battery that can drive itself. So the plan is I will add any power we generate here in California to this battery, and then get this to them in time for the race in Colorado. So the measly lemon power is now inside, but clearly I need to think of a plan B. Luckily, I had an idea, which was to take some pulleys and a skateboard wheel and a brushless motor, then some custom machined aluminum plates and a steel cable to make a zip line with regenerative braking to charge a drill battery. And it seemed to actually be working. All I needed now was a party with some family friends and their kids. This is how much energy is in the battery. We need to get it from empty all the way up to full. That's where I need you guys. Because what happens is as you go down on the zip line, it charges the battery. The worst part about a zip line is when you have to go down and then drag it back up the hill. But I've got a little remote control here. Watch this. Wow. Is that cool? You guys want to ride that? You ready? Disguises it well, but the amount of energy they are adding to our zipline system here by running up the hill just one time is the same energy used for the world record deadlift. And to help provide power to their leg muscles, we repurposed our lemon battery lemons into fresh lemonade, and everyone had to take a drink before running up the hill. Because as they say, when life gives you 1,200 lemons, make lemonade. Then force kids to drink it to power your regenerative zip line. So the zip line was awesome, and we ended up charging up one of these portable drill batteries plus a little more. Now, for those of you keeping track at home, here's how I'm doing so far. The lemons have enough power to move the supercar about this far on a soccer field. And then with the lemonade and the kids' muscles and the zip line, it can now travel an additional 2 soccer fields. The problem is, the race is 200 soccer fields long, which means if we were to try and charge the car, we'd be 198 soccer fields short. So clearly that kind of power will not be breaking any records. So I've got to come up with a plan C. And to do that, I'm going to harness the power of the sun. And in hindsight, I probably should have started here, because if you think about it, all the energy sources we use are actually solar power. Oil and coal and natural gas is just old decayed plants and swamps that originally got their power from the sun using their leaves and photosynthesis. Even things like wind turbines are really solar powered because the wind blows when the sun heats up the atmosphere unevenly. In the case of hydroelectric dams, the water got to the lake on the high side because of rain from the clouds. And clouds are a result of water that has been evaporated by, you guessed it, the sun. As humans, we are even solar powered because we get our energy from plants or animals that ate plants, which again, get their power from the sun. So if I'm looking for some energy to fill up a battery, instead of indirectly and inefficiently going through a bunch of different energy sources and losing a bunch at every step along the way, it makes way more sense to just go directly to the source. And so with that in mind, I busted out the power tools and put 24 100-watt solar panels over our garage. But there was a problem with this. When NASA sent the solar-powered twin rovers to Mars in 2004, it didn't take long until the solar panels were totally covered in dust, which effectively crippled the rover because they couldn't get as much energy from the sun. And this was a huge issue, but then we got lucky and a mini tornado came by and cleaned them off, restoring their power. It turns out these mini tornadoes are actually pretty common on Mars, which is why she is still driving around today, nearly more than 14 years later. This is also a plot line on the next rover we sent to Mars. We just killed the engine altogether and slapped it into the reactor on the back. And while California isn't Mars, it does get pretty dusty here, so to ensure that wouldn't happen to me, I invited over some really smart future engineers, scientists, and creators. And after explaining the problem and demonstrating how severely it limits the power output from the panels, I challenged them to come up with and build a solution. And because our brains use up 20% of all the energy our body produces, I made them drink more lemonade to ensure I got an optimal solution. And so after pitching each other their ideas, they settled on one and got to work. Personally, I thought it was brilliant and it worked extremely well. And after they left, I hooked it up to my lawn sprinkler system, so they go off for a few minutes once a week now. And so after a few days of being bombarded by photons from space, we finally had the battery all charged up to full capacity. So in the end, I learned a lot and we actually pulled it off. And now if you'll excuse me, I have an urgent delivery deadline to meet in Colorado. Okay, you like it, Eliza? Okay.